Time having arrived, I call the meeting to the Committee on FinCom to order. Please rise and help us salute our beautiful flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Colleagues and friends, welcome to hopefully our last day of these interesting budget hearings. Hopefully tonight things will go a little better and a little easier than it went on Tuesday. But we do have a long agenda. There are 26. Well, 27 is going to be my own department. I'm creating my own department. 26 items on the agenda, so let's just try to mow this down and go through these as expeditious as we possibly can, but at the same time do our job to make sure that the citizens do not fire all of us. Mr. Clerk, number one.
Department number 1, Council on Aging, Janice Fitzgerald, Director.
Number 1. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Council President and Councilors. It's a pleasure to be here this evening to present the Council on Aging FY25 budget. The Council on Aging is mandated to assess the needs and provide programs and services to older adults in the community and strives to improve their quality of life while they age in place. Before I get into the budget, I would like to say a big thank you to our Board of Directors, my staff and volunteers for all their dedication, commitment, and hard work this last year. They were instrumental in getting us moved to our temporary location at the Shaw Center and providing outstanding customer service and conducting business as usual, as well as handling outreach services during and after our transition. Our volunteers have saved the city over $100,000 in volunteer service hours. In addition to that, thank you, I want to acknowledge Lauren Conrad. She's my Assistant Director. She's here this evening. Hopefully, when the day comes and I move on to bigger and better places, she will be considered to take the Director's position. So thank you, Lauren, for being here. So let me take a minute and mention some of our accomplishments last year. Like I stated, we moved to the Shaw Center while the building is being renovated, concluded the needs assessment with UMass Boston, assisted over 105 seniors with fuel assistance, provided over 2,100 meals with our community dining program, welcomed over 300 new members, provided over 1,200 well-check calls with our Bridgewater State University social work intern, received funding to cover the cost of transportation while relocated at the Shaw Center, drafted policies and procedures, along with council approval of a revolving account for our transportation program. First year ever, we filled all 30 senior property tax work-off positions. We mailed out over 60,000 newsletters, increased our membership number to well over 11,000 members. As you may remember, back in November of 2023, I provided you all with a copy of the UMass Boston Needs Assessment and then came before you with Caitlin Coyle, the Director of the Center for Social and Demographic Research on Aging at the Gerontology Institute to review the results. That was a mouthful. Of those 5,000 surveys, we had a 29% return rate, which was outstanding. The results of the survey were instrumental in planning for our new building and for future programming. We also realized that we still have a lot more outreach to do to educate residents on what the COA does, which we have already started. We are also aware that a lot of our older adults are still working and caring for grandchildren. At some point, we will look into possibly offering some evening hours for those individuals. So believe it or not, I've been watching all the budget hearings. I've been glued to the TV. And similar to what the library director stated the other night, that the library has become a community center. Well, the COA has become a social service agency that helps older adults and their families with many issues, such as fuel assistance, SNAP benefits, housing, bill assistance, Medicare and Mass Health, Social Security issues, as well as mental health support, just to name a few. Although those are the majority of the issues we help people with, we don't turn anyone away. In fact, the other day we had a very unique situation. A gentleman in his late 70s had been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and his family decided they no longer wanted anything to do with him to care for him. And he wasn't quite ready to go into a nursing home, but he had no place to go. So my outreach team worked really, really hard to see if we could help find a solution for this gentleman in end stage of life. And they've actually been able to secure a hotel room with hospice and services for almost a month now. So those are the things people don't know about that we do, but that certainly isn't a unique situation. So now let's talk about the FY25 budget. Like you've already heard from all the other departments, our budget was cut significantly, but we can make do, and we will make do with what we have. However, with that being said, I will be returning to a new building, hopefully in the fall, and data shows that we should expect to see a 30% increase in participants. We are already understaffed and feel we're setting ourselves up for failure when we return to 10 Father Kenny Way. I have one full-time unfilled vacant position, and I've lost funding for 2 part-time per diem van drivers, which means ultimately I probably won't have that transportation program that we worked so hard to create. Presently, I do have 3 full-time employees and 2 part-time. So you're probably sitting there and saying, well, how does that compare to other COAs? So I did my homework thinking someone was going to ask that question. And I did a comparison of some communities that were close in older adult numbers. Quincy, they have over 24,000 older adults. They have 8 full-time employees. Falmouth has over 11,000 older adults. They have 7 full-time, 6 part-time, and they saw a 290% increase in new members when they opened their center in 2023. Plymouth, over 19,000 elders, they have 11 full-time employees. Stoughton, just a little under, has a little over 8,000 older adults. They have 6 full-time employees. Fall River, they're a little bit different. They have 20,000 older adults, but they have 4 different councils on aging, so they can split it up. And then lastly, some of the communities that are a little bit more wealthy, obviously they can afford to pay more staff. But so you have a comparison. Marshfield has over 7,600 older adults. They have 10 full-time employees. Duxbury, about 5,000 older adults. They have 15 full-time employees. So I'm hopeful that the mayor and CFO at some point can find some funds to increase our staffing to help us when we get back there. And that's just a hope and a wish at this point. So my goals, we're going to continue to provide welcoming atmosphere for our older adults and all generations who visit, strengthen the community relations, and continue to serve as a focal point for services and programs. We are researching a rebrand and marketing for the COA. We're looking into some different type of programming for our younger, older adults. And if you haven't been by 10 Father Kenny Way, you really should take a ride by because it looks awesome. So with that, I will take any questions if there are any. And thank you so very much.
Councilor Tavares, Minicello, and Duranicourt.
Thank you so much for being here. Actually, I see the projects coming out so beautiful. And my first question is going to be, what's your goal for this year after the completion of the project?
So what is my goal?
Yes.
So I just read you some goals there.
Yes.
So until we get into the building, certainly our goals, we're going to continue to provide a welcoming atmosphere for people. We're looking at programming, some new and different things. More community outreach. We realize we have to get into some of these diverse communities. It's something that we struggle with. Rebranding would be something else we're looking at too for the next year.
All right. And then the second question, I just want to know for people out here, what's going to be your qualification for the elderly enrolled in your program?
So to participate at the Council on Aging, you have to be 60 or older.
All right.
And we do welcome individuals from surrounding towns as well.
All right. And, all right, I think that's all I have a question for now, and thank you so much for being here.
Sure, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Minicello.
Good evening, Mrs. Fitzgerald. Always nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well.
So it looks like you have a reduction of about $60,000 this year. And you mentioned about, unfortunately, you think that's going to have a negative impact on the program with regard to transportation.
Yes.
Can you explain with a little more detail in terms of how much money you would need to preserve that program and what exactly that program encompasses for the members of the Council on Aging?
Sure.
Participants. Yeah.
Yep. So a few years back, we were able to get a van from Brockton Area Transit. At the time, we were just doing local COA trips. Because we weren't using the vehicle enough, BAT asked that we would support them in transporting some older adults. So we agreed that could be something we could do. So we worked with Law Department to come up with policies and procedures. Got a couple job descriptions for part-time per diem drivers. And I know it was brought before you regarding a revolving account because we would need some way to funnel donations from people using the transportation. So trying to offer a program with one driver, I think, is really going to be a struggle.
And so how many elderly participants are there in the program currently in terms of utilizing the transportation?
So we don't have the program up and running yet.
Not running, okay.
Yeah, we have 21,000 elders in Brockton. And we do know that their schedule gets filled very fast, especially for medical appointments.
Okay. So this would be something that would basically make their lives a lot easier and maybe take some stress off of, I mean, I know how people get very anxious when it comes to making sure they can go to their doctor's appointment on time and all that. Especially, when you get to a certain age. I'm experiencing it with my own parents. Their social life is their doctor's visits. It's unbelievable. I mean, my mother's calendar and my father's calendar, it's crazy. I make fun of them, and then I say to myself, I'm going to be there very soon, so you better shut your mouth. But no, that's a very good program to try to implement. I think basically that our seniors deserve things to make their lives easier. I mean, I think that's a generation that's contributed to this city, that has made this city proud. So the council is going to do everything they can to assist at some point, but all I'm going to say is just be patient, be optimistic. The glass is always half full. That's the way I like to look at it. So we hear you, and we understand that that $60,000 means a lot, and it means a lot to us. So we'll to be continued, as they say, to be continued.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You all set, Councilor?
Yes, Mr. President. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Councilor Rennecourt.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, Mrs. Fitzgerald. It's
Good evening,
to see
Councillor.
you. Let me just make a few comments before I ask you a few questions. I mean, obviously, I know for a fact personally, your commitment and willingness to serve our seniors has been, nothing but the best. You've shown your desire, your willingness, your time. Even though I know you have a set salary, but the amount of hours that you put into, helping our, seniors, everybody can see it. So I just want to personally thank you. I mean, for me, I think it's, how do I put this? Giving the responsibility and giving the folks you are dealing with, I think it is unacceptable to even see that a penny was cut out of your budget. And I think anybody that knows me, they know that well, in regard to the library, in regard to the Council on Aging, this is something that I take, personally. So for some people, 60,000 may not mean anything, but I think for you, it's like $1 million. And at the end of the day, you need every penny, to making sure that, the service that you are providing, are up to nothing but the best. And I guess like my colleague, Council Tom Minichilo just stated, these are the people that have contributed to our city. And at the end of the day, we shouldn't do anything that will make them feel otherwise. Obviously, my dad is a senior. My dad is not there, but I think, this is something that he would love to be part of. And if you don't have enough staff, if you don't have the manpower, even though you may have the desire to serve, but if you don't have the ability to provide the services that they need, it might come across as if you are not doing your job. And I know from this council, all of us truly know that, how much, you have been put into it. And I hope that, the administration will take a deeper look in terms of find ways, hopefully, in the near future to actually give you that money back, if not more, because I think it's necessary. And you said it, I think once, that place is open, you will see, an increase. I mean, it's a new building, it looks nice, everybody want to check it out. And by virtue of that, the traffic will be more, if not, very complex. So at the end of the day, I just want to say this publicly, anything that this administration wants to do in regard to support both the library and the seniors, you got my vote on it. And at the end of the day, I think, that's the least I can do for our seniors. So let me just ask you a couple questions. In regard to diversity, I mean, obviously, we all know that Brockton, as of right now, I mean, the city has always been diverse, but we are talking about different types of diversity right now. The Haitian, the Cape Verdean, and a couple of people from the Caribbean and stuff like that. In terms of diversity, what is the percentage? I mean, you may not have the number right now, but in terms of that group of people, so have you seen a lot of them coming and require some of those services that we provide on the Council on Aging?
We have seen an increase, yes. I don't have exact numbers for you, but I can certainly get that.
I'm assuming, after COVID, I mean, obviously during COVID, it was very complicated. I mean, I've been to your place, a couple times, and I've seen, a lot of people that I've never seen when you were, down the street. So that's part of the reason I asked the question. And, obviously we are getting people who are, I don't want to call them elders, a little bit older. And I think that number will increase. And I think it's necessary. So, I don't want to go too much because I know what you do. And I know, how much you care about not just the folks you are serving, but also the city of Brockton and even the people who may not come to your place. I'm assuming, this is something that you do. And, I just want to, again, thank you for what you do. Thank you for what you represent. And thank you for your desire to serve our, our seniors. And when I see these people, I see my mom, I see my dad, and I see a part of my family. So at the end of the day, it is my job, it is my responsibility to advocate, to find ways in which we can help them out. Unfortunately, the city council does not have the power to add, does not have the power to, put, but I guess as the mayor is listening, and of course the CFO, I'm assuming they will do their due diligence to find a way to somewhat give you that $60,000 back. And I think, I don't want to say no one cares. We have to balance the budget, we have to find a way, but even that, I'm not happy about going after the seniors. So I don't think it was personal, but that's me, But again, just thank you for what you do, and let's see what happens in the near future as the administration promises. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councillor, and I'm confident there'll be a solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, madam. How are you?
Good evening, Councillor. Great, thank you.
I really just have more of a statement than any questions. I just want to compliment you and your staff and the tremendous work you do with the older people in our city. I know I have residents right in my street that speak so highly of you. You should have a sainthood by now. But I just want to talk about your budget shortfall. We're in a tough budget cycle.
Oh, my God.
I call the
Sorry.
meeting of
Everybody is trying to,
Good.
stretch money as far as it can. But I want to give you my assurance, if more money comes into the city from the state, federal government, grants, whatever, I will personally lobby the mayor and the CFO, try to restore that $60,000 that had to be cut to you. I'd also like to see the library get, their funding be restored too. But I want to thank you again for all you do for the residents, and I wish you nothing but success this year.
Thank you, Counselor, and I actually have one question for you. Did you sign up for Part A?
No, I have not, but I will be down to see. I will be down to see you very soon. I have 3 months from Sunday, so I guess I have a little bit of time. Wow. I'm still having a hard time adjusting to that, I got to be honest.
Nothing to it.
But thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Counselor. He stole my question, because that was my question. Because, you should have brought a whole bunch of applications for some of the councilors up here. Councilor Nick Castro.
Thank you.
I filled mine
Good
out.
evening, Mrs.
Did you?
Fitzgerald.
Good evening.
And yes, I did sign up for Part A.
Good girl.
So I missed the number. You said you have 4,000 members?
We have over 11,000, I think it's 11,245.
11,245, that's great. And last year you mentioned that you had received in calls, emails, and faxes about 10,000. Is that number about consistent?
It's, probably a little higher, but that's pretty much average.
Okay, that's really good. And so I wanted to ask you, hold on. So you're going to be seeking a grade level 1 person, because that's the position that is going to be funded in this budget.
Correct.
Okay, and that's good, and you need it. And finally, under your expense summary, I wanted to ask you, your memberships and subscriptions are being reduced from $8,800 to $3,000. And what are you letting go of to make that reduction?
So, for the FY25 budget, what I did was add a little bit of a cushion on line items anticipating returning back to a new center.
Sure.
That reflects in the energy line item. But we would be looking into purchasing some new software, updating some, like the My Senior Center program we have. There were some additional things we were hoping to be able to get once we get back to the building to make things a little bit easier for us.
Okay. And when are you expecting to get back to the building?
So last I heard was late fall.
That's tremendous. Even if you make it for Christmas, that will be tremendous.
We'd like to be back before the snowfall. But,
Sure.
Yep.
Although I know there's a number of members who enjoy the Shaw Center. They like the spaciousness of it.
Yep, it's served its purpose very well. However, it's not our home, and we need to get back.
Of course you do. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam. Councilor Farwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just more of a statement to Ms. Fitzgerald and with the mayor here. There is another city budget that's asking for $372,125 for more buses and for $490,000 for bus drivers. That $490 is actually much more expensive because you have to factor in all of the city benefits. I hope to see that cut, and if it is cut, Mr. Mayor, I hope you'll consider looking at whatever savings we effectuate to help the library, to help the Council on Aging, and I did notice the other night that a bilingual biology teacher or two would be very helpful at the high school. So again, I can't predict what's going to happen. I can only tell you where I'm coming from, but budgets are about priorities. My priorities would be what I just mentioned and not an additional transportation fleet. So thank you.
Mr. President, I just have a correction. Mr. Clarkson was able to contact the project manager, so the anticipated return date is looking to be like maybe mid to late November. Thank you. Thank you, Troy.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you for all that you do at Council on Aging. But I just want to run something by the councilors here. We all love the COA, but at this pace, we've got 26 items on the agenda. I think we'll be out of here at 7:25 a.m.
On a 13-hour pace.
Thank you.
Thank you. Troy.
Thank you. Nice job.
Yep.
She gonna make-
Mr. Chairman,
Councilor Lally.
I'd like to make a motion to take item number 22 out of order. The Madam Chair has a family matter to attend to.
Second.
A motion has been properly made and second to take 22 out of order. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It carries.
Item 22, the Planning Board, Tony Golkow's chairperson. Gonzalez, excuse me.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. President, councilors.
Ma'am?
Good evening.
Tony Gonzalez, Chair of the Planning Board. I have the budget in front of me. I believe all of you do as well. You'll see that there's been cuts pretty much in all areas, from equipment to consultants, supplies. There was a little increase in, I guess, the stipend and overtime for staff for one additional meeting. We're holding a meeting in July, which normally we don't, but we have a lot to review, so that is the reason why you see it increased there. Very
Any
short and sweet.
question?
Any questions?
Any questions for the chairperson? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you for and have a safe trip.
Department number 2, contributory retirement, contributory. Director Gene Martineau couldn't be with us tonight. We have the returning superstar, Jay Condon, from the board.
Welcome, Mr. Condon.
Good evening, councilors. Good to see you all again.
Same here.
As the city clerk Crew said, the executive director is unable to be here tonight, so I'm stepping in her place. The retirement board is asking for an appropriation. It's actually an assessment. It's primarily the actuarial assessment approved by PERAC, but it's $14,819,000 for the city of Brockton, and that's an increase of about 3% over last year. The board is actually, it's established in 1936. It consists of approximately 1,400 retirees and over 3,000 active and inactive members. Some people are no longer, not yet retired, but no longer in the system. Not many, but that's the inactive. The members of the system is the city. That's about 90%, a little bit over 90%, but also the Brockton Housing Authority, Brockton Area Transit, and the Brockton Redevelopment Authority. And their assessments are separate from the $14,800,000 assessment you're receiving. The board consists of 5 members, which is set by the Massachusetts general law. Those 5 members, 2 are appointed by the mayor. I'm one of the mayor's appointees. 1 member is the city auditor by statute, and then there are 2 who are elected by the active and retired members of the system. And the board essentially looks over the investments to try to make certain that the money that we're managing is equaling or is achieving our investment objective, which at this point is 6.7% per annum. A couple of years ago, we reduced it from 7.5% to take a more conservative posture. So it's 6.75%, and we've been hitting that number, so we're doing pretty well. Your board is one of only 20 in the Commonwealth, which is 90% funded or better. And we have another evaluation, actuarial evaluation, which is underway right now. It'll be coming before the board, I think, in late July or August, and at that point, we'll have a new assessment for the following years. But we're doing pretty well, and I'm pleased to report that. Most of the assessment is for what's called the nominal cost, and that's the city's obligation for the pension that's being earned, calculated as being earned this year by your active employees. There's also a small $35 million unfunded liability, which was remaining from after we sold the pension bond, and that's being amortized over the next few years. It should be eliminated by 2032, and we'll reset all of those numbers with a new valuation. And with that, I'll take your questions.
Any questions, comments? Thank you, Mr. Condon.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Good to see you, Mr. Condon.
It's good to see you, my friend.
Good luck.
Department number 3, Information Technology, Edward Maderos, Director.
Mr. Medeiros, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Evening.
I just wanted to start with a quick thank you. Take a moment to thank the council president, council, the mayor, the CFO, and all those watching at home, and the entire IT staff. This is my third budget, and I want to say it's an honor and a privilege once again to sit here before you all for its review. And I do know you have a lot of budgets to get through tonight, so I want to be brief. I just had a couple of quick shout-outs. One is Joe Johnson. He's retiring this summer after 25 years of service in the IT department. His dedication to the city and his sense of humor will be missed. Thank you, Joe. The second one, Kelly Young from the Veteran Service Department mentioned that someone provided the use of a bucket truck around the city for hanging up the banners for her department. I mean, that was done by Paul Hardiman in my office. He's actually charged with replacing, installing, and repairing cameras around the city. It includes inside, outside of buildings, parking lots, the parks, as well as intersections. Somehow he managed to squeeze the banners in, and there was a big push before the Memorial Day parade. So I really want to, as a veteran myself, I'm really proud of his work, so I just want to say thank you, Paul. So the next item I wanted to talk about, I guess, was the budget, and I think you all know, you've all had a chance to look at it. We did reduce quite a bit. We're going to have 2 positions go vacant and unfunded as well. And a lot of that stuff does hurt, but we're, like many of the other departments before me have said, we're going to make do with what we have and just continue to press forward. So with that said, I really don't want to take much longer, and I'd like to turn it over to you guys for questions.
Councilor Nicastro, followed by Fowler.
Thank you. Good evening, Ted. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Councilor. Good
I
evening.
have a question for you. Under Financial Overview Summary on page 314, your goods and supplies have gone up substantially, 14.7%. Give me a sense of why that is.
Let me get that for you.
The one about the copy machine?
Yes.
Sure.
Counselor, I can answer that question.
Looks like it's all the copy machine supplies.
Right, much like what the mayor and I have tried to do over the last several years is to consolidate some items in the budget. We did that a couple of years ago with cell phones, and so you'll see on the next page, on page 315, Ted has a 2,122% increase in that line. So we are consolidating the copy machine costs for all departments within IT with the hope that we can, right now, contracts for copy machines or leases, purchases are done by each department. So we're hoping to consolidate those efforts and affect some cost savings. So it looks like a huge increase, but it's actually the amount from each budget that had a copy machine budget consolidated here.
Okay. And the other thing is, on-call is going up $5,000.
On-call is contractual, Councilor, and we did have a couple of staff members added last year to the budget, but we lost one as well, and that's one of the ones we're not replacing this current year.
And I noticed you also updated people's titles.
I did change them, yes, last year, some outdated ones.
Well, thank you. Your department always helps me well, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilor Farwell and then Lally.
Mr. Medeiros, based on your professional experience, do all communities have 2 IT departments, school and municipal?
Well, so far, Councilor, I think it's a mix. Not every community has only one department.
But since information technology is a pretty broad category, couldn't there be an information technology director, and then Unit A could be school-related, Unit B could be
public safety-related, Unit C. And the reason I ask is you're eventually going to be in a new building, so you're going to be leaving the high school. So we effectively will have one information technology department remaining, I assume, at the high school, and then we'll have another one at the public safety building. And in terms of efficiency and training and cross-training and expenses, it would just seem to me we might want to think about what other communities are doing, and whatever that model is that's most effective, go to that.
Yes, Council. I mean, I definitely agree with you. I think it should definitely be looked at. For example, currently, the school IT's mission is very much different than, say, the city side's IT mission. So we would have to, if we did make a move like that, we'd have to come up with some kind of mesh of those things. So I do agree with you, absolutely. Anything's possible.
Because, I mean, the fire department, the data that they gather and store and retrieve is different than the police, that's different than the school. So I just think it's something that, as we go forward with the public safety facility, and those two entities are going to be split apart, what will work best for the city, what will be most efficient in terms of not only the product that we put out, but also the expenses that are incurred. So I thank you for your work, and something to think about.
Absolutely. Thank you, Council.
Councilor Lally.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry.
Yep, Councilor Lally.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Director. How are you?
Good evening, Councilor. Good, thank you.
You have an $800,000 reduction, according to the helpful little grid that we've got from the CFO, from your budget. About,
I think so. This is what he's talking about.
yeah.
I'm sorry, Council, just to be clear, you mean the spreadsheet that we
Yes.
provide? So what he's talking about is you didn't see this. This is an actual spreadsheet that lists the actual requests from each department.
Oh, sure.
And what it was reduced to get here. So let me give you IT. Pardon the interruption. I just wanted to make sure Ted's on the same page.
So what we talked about on the phone was sort of what did you lose, either in opportunity cost or in function. I think you mentioned some efforts to put more of the city system on the cloud.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, anyways, something about putting the city on the cloud.
Yes, exactly, Councilor. There are a lot of, there's some aging equipment out there, some things that we need to replace in the next couple of years. Some of the things I would like to see done would be to move some of the technology over to some cloud-based options and get off the on-premise devices.
Yeah, get ahead of it.
Well, sort of. The industry's been doing it for a long
Yeah.
time. I'm just trying to keep us as close as I can.
Yeah.
We have to be realistic with budgets and money, and I understand that. So what we're trying to do is just meet somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Just keep things going.
Yeah, to keep up. Now,
Reduction, though, the CFO just also that you're talking about included people. That's part of the problem too. So you can only push so hard with what you have and the people you have.
Yeah.
So to lose them as well is a problem. But we're trying to figure this out and make it work.
right. So the school IT, do you know if they are pursuing similar projects?
Some of their stuff is already done. Some of their stuff is already cloud-based and virtualized. I think most of their stuff, to be honest. I'm not sure exactly what they have left for physical systems.
They didn't get hit, and that's why I'm asking.
Right.
You're trying to bring us up to an existing industry standard, and they're either in the process of doing that as well, or they've already done it, and they're still, they still have a want list that's getting fulfilled, and your needs are sort of on that altar. But I just wanted to establish that, so I appreciate it.
No, thank you. But to be fair, their their equipment and their services are discounted at a much greater rate than a regular city.
Well, they're buying
agency
more stuff.
for educational.
Yeah.
Some companies offer stuff to them almost free, barely any cost at all, and we don't get those. We get a discount somewhere in the neighborhood of 5%, let's say below the average business that's out there, 5 to 10%, whereas the schools might receive 60 to 80% off the same product. So they can afford to do it much quicker than an office like mine could do it.
And because they never hear the word no.
Well, that helps too.
Yeah, that does help. But I think that lends credence to Councilor Farwell's suggestion as well, if they're getting a steeper discount like that. But that's all I've got. I appreciate your time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
You all set, Counselor?
Yep.
One more?
Well, I have one more.
Yeah, go ahead.
You may not be able to answer this, because I'm wondering what we're missing. The school department is requesting $6,465,000 this year, and that is about a $2 million increase over last year. You must talk to them. Are they into something that maybe we should know about, or?
I'm not aware of what they're going to do with that increase. I'm sorry, Counselor, I'm not sure.
Okay.
That's about.
Thank you.
I can definitely check around and ask, though, and see what we can come up with.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor. Anyone else? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good evening.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to take item 19 out of order.
Second.
A motion has been properly made in second. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Number 19, sir.
Item 19, Board of Health, Dr. Reno Mondesir, Executive Health Officer.
Dr. Mondesir, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, councilors. As I come this evening, I would like to briefly present my FY25 budget, but also to highlight a few things that may help you understand the continuity of the health department after the pandemic phase of COVID. So we continue to promote, preserve, and protect the health and the well-being of the city. And so as such, we have two groups of individuals who work on a daily basis, the nurses as well as community health workers. The community health workers plus one epidemiologist do not reflect on the current staff of the city because they are DPH grant funded, but they are part of the team to do the work, and we continue to monitor communicable diseases within the city, not just COVID at this point, because COVID is endemic. It's going to be with us, but we also have other communicable diseases that we follow. And on a daily basis, the nurses and the community health workers, they do what we call DOT, which is direct observed therapy for individuals who are infected with diseases that must be monitored and cured. Otherwise, we may have what is called the disease that may present some resistance strands to medication. And so we don't want that to happen. And so therefore we continue to do this daily. And on the side, we also have ongoing clinics where we do vaccination for COVID, flu, and as well as wellness clinics that we do throughout the city and on demand. We finish series with the high rises in the city, and now we are also at the farmers market on every Friday until October. So as per the budget, it is presented to you here. We have a meager budget than last year, but given the circumstances, we're going to continue to do the best we can to make sure that we address every aspect of health issues that the city has. And I must also say thank you very much for all your supports for the past 3 3/4 years, because September 1st, 2020 to September 1st, 2024, I'll be here for 4 years, and I would not have survived without your support. Thank you so much.
Any questions, Councillor Azak?
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, Dr. Mondesir. How are you?
Good evening, Madam.
Just a couple of questions. How is the Board of Health functioning without the chair? We haven't, I don't believe we've replaced Dr. Brophy.
Not as yet. So basically, we continue to do the vaccination with the supply that DPH allocates to us. But it is a dire situation, because particularly when we meet, when we have hearing, it is a compelling case to have the chair, and particularly to have an MD who is a resident of the city who chairs the department.
Because we've received vaccines with that, we need to have a doctor on the board to be able to receive vaccines, correct?
Continue
to receive them.
Yes.
Have you expressed this need to Mayor Sullivan, that we need to fill this position? I think we're going over, I mean, it's been how long? It's been over a year since Dr. Brophy's been gone, correct, if not more?
No, to my collection, she tendered her resignation last year around September, October.
Okay. So I think we need to really work on filling it. I know I have businesses that, as you know, we have a problem with our tobacco licenses, and we have businesses that are going before the board, and we really need to fill this position. I've expressed the urgency to the mayor, but maybe, coming from you or other councilors, we can work on filling this position. I know we're in the process of transitioning the department, but in the meantime, I believe we still have to fill this position in order to continue, so we don't hit any bumps. I'm happy to hear we're still getting the vaccines. When will that expire? I mean, when will you not be able to get vaccines when Dr. Brophy is no longer there, and until you get a doctor on board?
Yeah, probably as soon as our supplies ends, because we have supply probably to last, depending what the demand is. I'm hoping that we may be able to get enough supply to take us probably through the summer. So hopefully the mayor will make the determination to nominate another person, another MD.
Okay, well, I hope, I mean, I'm sure the mayor's going to hear tonight, and I'll express it again, but we really need to work on filling that position. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councillor Berencourt and then Tavares.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's good to see you, Dr. Mondesir. And obviously, like 2020 was somewhat, how do I put this, very unexpected, given the fact that COVID was, on top of the world. And obviously, you and your team did an excellent job, even as we speak. In terms of COVID, right, it's like for the city of Brockton, like where are we? Are we seeing an increase in terms of cases? Like what is it?
Well, we have one indicator where we keep track of COVID in the city. That indicator is the best one there is in the state and in the country. That's wastewater data collection. That program is paid by the state, and it is extended through June 30th, 2025. So that said, it doesn't give us an accurate or specific number of cases. However, what it does, it gives us a concentration of the virus in the sewer. So we can see the rise and the fall. So there is a pattern. For the past 4 years coming this fall, we will see that there is some rise and some fall, but I would say that we have the second tier where we observe the number of cases. Those are the specific cases that are reported to DPH, and we can see them through MAVEN, which is the Massachusetts epidemiological system, a surveillance system to watch it. So this one doesn't give you at all the people who do the home tests for COVID. And so, therefore, we don't have an accurate way to say, okay, this is what it is, but we do see between those two variables that COVID is still around. And in fact, it is endemic and will probably be with us for years to come.
Excellent. Another question, Dr. Modizio. Given the fact that having a MD as the chairperson on the board is a necessity, right? And as we speak, that person is not there. And obviously, you have to be qualified as a physician and stuff like that. So what could be the consequences the city of Brockton might face if that position does not fill?
The one consequence could be that at one point, if there were to be an incident, that DPH may revisit and look into it and question why don't we have one in place at this time. So perhaps that would threaten the health department to not vaccinate.
So, like, if I understand you correctly, what could be an incident that would require, them to actually challenge on whether or not we do not have an MD, at the Board of Health Department? Give us an example in terms of like an incident that might.
Well, let's say that there was, say,
the pandemic.
negligence.
Okay.
Say negligence on the part of a nurse, or maybe something, an information was needed, and then the physician wasn't there. But thank God that we've been there for, short period without the physician. But it's not the first time it happens in a department where an MD departs and the position remains vacant for a while.
It's like, how do I put this? With COVID, which was unexpected, obviously, by now we know that at any given time something can happen. So it is an obligation, it is a necessity in the interest of the resident of Brockton, whereby, we should have someone like this. But is it easy to find? I know you mentioned that that physician must be a Brockton resident. So is it hard to find someone like that? Or what could be the reason why, the administration? What I'm saying to you is that, I know it's like, being a physician, it's a big responsibility on itself, but at the end of the day, share something like this may require, some commitment in terms of so are we thinking about not having people who are willing to come on board and accept that to be part of it? Is this the issue that we are facing on?
That's an excellent question. Actually, there was a candidate who is a city resident, but she has assumed other roles while she was being considered, and so she declined the position. So right now, I'm not aware of one unless there be someone on the mayor's list. But it is important to find one. So I will continue to do my due diligence and speak with the mayor, and as soon as we, the mayor and we find one person who is interested, most likely the mayor will decide.
Excellent. I'm going to ask you for a favor. Can you email the clerk, the date that the person resigned to present? So the clerk can actually email it to us. And I think this is something that we would definitely appreciate, just in case something goes down, so all of us don't get blamed for it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Tavares.
Good evening.
Good evening, Madam.
Thank you for being here today. Actually, I do have 3 questions, that's all. My first question, I understand you're only doing public health.
Well, public health is a broad brush issue, because public health involves education, public health involves intervention, public health involves raising awareness, and so therefore that is why in my short presentation I also mentioned that we do outreach and wellness clinics, because those are places where the nurses and the community health workers, they meet with people and they do blood pressure. They check diabetes for them, and they take their weight. So, and then they do education on nutrition, because some of those individuals that we see, that they see at the clinics, they need to monitor their blood glucose or sugar level. And so therefore part of the education is to let them know how to eat and to make sure that they monitor their blood pressure. When it comes to communicable diseases, one case where the person develops resistance can be problematic for the whole family if that person has families. And so that is why on a regular basis, my nurses and the community health workers, they're in touch with DPH epidemiologists to make sure that the protocol is adhered to, so that those people, they follow the protocol, and the nurses go to their home, even to fill up their case for medication, because that's how critical it is. And thankfully, we can say the job is being done, because for more than a year now, we've been following those cases, many cases, and we have not observed one person that has developed resistance to a communicable disease.
Great. All right, the second question, what about the code enforcement officers you're not in charge of those service? That's kind of right. Code enforcement officers, inside and outside, it's not under your umbrella anymore, right?
Yes, that is correct. That has been, the inspectors have been, the sanitary inspectors have been sectioned and put under inspectional services.
Correct.
But we do have requests that comes all the time, and so we refer them to the individuals or the requests to ISD.
Great. And then do you feel you have enough nurse to do education outside for the community, to do outreach? Do you have enough staffing?
I think we would need some more community health workers. Now, they are paid by grant from DPH. However, there is some reduction in the amount that they have given us compared to previous years. And so, preparing to come here today, I was thinking about Mr. Chairman, the president of the council, because I know there is a great need for Cape Verdean assistance. But when I look at the budget that DPH gives us also, instead of thinking of adding one other person that speaks a specific language, but the budget won't allow us because it's reduced also. So right now we have one community health worker who speaks Portuguese and Cape Verdean Creole, one that speaks Spanish, and one that speaks Haitian Creole and French. So based on the demographic of the city with respect to those ethnicities, I feel that we probably could use one additional health worker for each of those 4 languages.
Yes, I hope you do get, everybody kind of find a way to find it and to hire it, because I know you guys, because I used to work for Board of Health, that's why I'm always hired advocate for Board of Health, because I find like you guys are doing a tremendous job, and it's very important for the community. I know last time was so strong with the short staff, short nurse, and it was necessarily because work under short staff is not easy, and then I hope you find a way to kind of get the budgets and to hire more. And thank you.
Thank you, madam.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Tawa.
Good evening, Doctor. You have an animal inspector in your department. Until I can get an ordinance changed to put that person under inspectional services, it is part of your domain, if you will, and the position pays about $73,000. This person does not put in for any mileage for use of their own car, so there's no tracking of where this person may be going, what they may be doing. In addition, this person asserts that the so-called barn book, the book that's maintained for animal inspections, is privileged and it's exempted under the state public records law. She is backed up by the Massachusetts Department of Agriculture that claims these records have to be secret so that we know where animals are in the Commonwealth. I suspect if someone has a sheep farm out in Western Mass, people are going to pretty much know there's a sheep farm out there. But on a serious note, my understanding is the person has an office here in City Hall?
Yes, at the present time. That person during COVID was moved multiple times from place to place, but presently she is stationed at the Board of Health.
All right. And when that person reports to work, do they report to you at the Board of Health?
Yes, the person is there unless she has taken time off, which every employee is entitled to.
No, I understand.
She reports there at 8:30, or if she has assignment, because one of the things with inspection, animal inspectors, and that happens also for the nurses. Sometimes they may not show up to the office at 8:30 because the person that they work with, the community, they have to be a little bit flexible so that sometimes my nurses may not be up in the office until 2 hours later, because that's the nature of what they do. The people have a schedule also, so we try to be flexible in accommodating. So same thing holds for, in some instances, with the animal inspector as well. But when she is there, she does her work, and we have a list of all these places where animals are being raised in the city.
Okay, so on a daily basis, they come into work?
Yes,
They check in?
Yes, Your Honor.
However, if they're not coming into work, let's assume they're going to Mr. Clarkson's house to check on a couple of animals, and I'm not quite sure what we would have here in Brockton other than perhaps chickens. I haven't seen sheep, I haven't seen cattle, I haven't seen steers, and I'm not trying to be funny, but I'm trying to drill down on how we account for this person's time. So if they do have an appointment, they would notify you, and you would have a record of that?
Yes.
Okay, and
Guys,
at the end?
Guys, we only have one employee that does that, and I think it makes sense that we can't be discussing that
Can't
specifically.
be discussing that.
We gotta,
Be discussing, I'm sorry, what can't we be discussing?
we only have one person who does that job, and it's easy to see who we're talking about. So I think if we, at least not to air it out in
Oh,
public.
I'm not mentioning names, Mr. Chairman. I'm looking at the position that we're funding, and I'm trying to make sure that that position we're funding.
Keep it as tight as possibly can to the position so that we're not saying he, she, it, or whatever.
All right, so let me just ask this broad general question. If we needed to, we could look at payroll records and we could demonstrate that this person is performing duties consistent with their position during the hours for which they should be on duty.
Yes, Mr.
All
Counselor.
right, thank you. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Number 4, sir.
Thank you, you're all set.
Thank you very much.
Item, Department 4, Human Resources, Sandy Chadden, HR Director.
Madam Chatton, welcome. You're next.
Can people hear me? First of all, I never know with microphones. So, good evening, Mr. Council President, members of the Council, Mayor Sullivan, members of the public. As others have said, it's an honor and privilege to be here tonight. As some of you may know, I actually first worked in the city of Brockton decades ago as a lawyer for what was then known as the Department of Social Services on Main Street. Fast forward many years, career change from labor and employment law to human resources. 2022, I thought I was heading to retirement, but I agreed to serve as the interim director of HR for the city of Brockton for a short period of time while they search for a permanent director. I discovered I had fallen in love with the city and the stuff that the mayor was doing. I applied for the permanent position, and here I am. So I don't want to go on and on about what HR does. As some of you may know, we've had a lot of changes in our staffing. Our longtime benefits administrator left for another job opportunity. Our DEI manager moved to the private sector. Chris, our assistant HR director, moved to another municipality to become the director of HR, and we definitely feel their absence. Our staff at this point consists of Jamie, who's here tonight, I think, Jamie Tabor, Colleen Hook, who are incredible, committed, and wonderful. We are very much looking forward to another staff person returning from maternity leave next month. We also utilize interns and have utilized someone recommended by the Director of the Council on Aging through the tax work-off program. A detailed list of what we do is contained in the budget book. I think you all know it starts from entire employment process, employee benefits, a liaison between the city and vendors, FMLA requests for accommodations, collaborative and constructive employee and labor relations, collective bargaining, internal investigations. We try to do employee appreciation. We advise both employees and retirees about their benefits, and we do that for both City of Brockton and Brockton Public School employees and retirees. We advise and assist the mayor, department heads. So that's some of the stuff we do. Some of our accomplishments, we have done training. Our training this year has been all grant funded, so we were fortunate to get a grant from the Commonwealth, which doing customer service training, which continues. I think our next sessions are actually next week. I've done training on recruitment and interview techniques. We've made online enhancements in technology. When we counted, hired, and promoted about 165 employees. Member of our staff tries to participate in every interview, formalized onboarding, offboarding processes, and so on. I am thrilled to announce that we're expecting a DEI manager to replace Amir, and that person will be starting in July. We continue the search for an assistant HR director. That posting closes Friday, and I'm looking forward to filling that position as well. Before I cede the floor, so to speak, I just really want to give a shout out to the, I don't know if unsung is the right word, but the heroes and heroines who work for the City of Brockton, the administrative assistants who've helped me, the laborers, the people in building maintenance, the people in the parking garage who make sure I don't hit my car when I try to get out, IT who solved every problem when I seemed to mess up how I did something on my computer. So really, we're HR, and I really appreciate the opportunity and having had the opportunity to work with all these employees, department heads, and members of the council.
Any questions for our HR director? I know we talked a lot about HR on Tuesday, so that word is probably out of our system by now, but any questions? If not, thank you, ma'am, for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next one, sir.
Department number 5, DPW Commissioner. Patrick Hill, DPW Commissioner.
Mr. Hill, you're on the hill.
For a while.
Good evening, councilors. I'll try to be brief. Obviously, I know you guys are a little bit behind schedule here, so.
I think we're down to 5 o'clock.
I'm sorry?
5 o'clock in the morning.
5 o'clock in the morning?
Yes.
Well, I don't plan on being here at 5 o'clock in the morning, but God bless you. So I think everybody knows what the commissioner's role here is in the city. I oversee all the DPW departments, the refuse, the highway, the maintenance department, the water and sewer, engineering, stormwater, and I oversee all the functions in those departments. I also oversee a lot of the Chapter 90 program, a lot of grant programs such as SRF, My Fair Share, which is a new version or in addition to Chapter 90 funds, a bunch of projects through MassWorks. This year, we're going to be getting into Garfield and Terminal Place, the reconstruction of that whole area, the bridge on Newbury Street, which is due to be bid out sometime this summer, and we're going to continue work in the downtown with water main replacements and soon to be a two-way traffic change.
Just Warren Ave?
Just Warren Ave.
What happened to Maine?
It's coming.
Okay, that's good. Any questions for our commissioner, but on the commissioner's budget? We've got quite a few to go, so if you can think about it later on, we can kind of mix it all up. Next item.
Department number 6, DPW Engineering. Patrick Hill, DPW Commissioner.
So the stormwater budget, the mission of the stormwater department is to maintain the existing stormwater system. It was established in the early 1900s. There's 200 miles of storm drains, 3,800 manholes, 7,500 catch basins, and 488 stormwater outfalls. Some of the services that we offer, are, through this department, we do some storm drain cleaning, street sweeping, and this year we'll hopefully get into some easement clearing. Not a whole lot to say other than that. We have a stormwater commission that I'm just waiting on a few appointments for. We hope to meet soon. Obviously, the ordinance changed to the way in which the stormwater billing was done. We're going to work into getting that.
Wait for the stormwater, because that's down the list.
I'm sorry?
Focus on engineering.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know.
I know you try to help us out so we don't have to stick around until 4.
Sorry about that.
Engineering budget was next.
Engineering.
Engineering.
Got it right here if you need it.
Sorry. I'm in an order. Engineering.
Want to slide this over?
No, I have the budget right here.
And councilors, as we said a couple of days ago, if you feel a little on the warm side, I know some of us are suffering from menopause, so you can take off your jackets if you feel so. Sorry about that.
No worries.
You can loosen that up too if you want. It's a little warm.
I am sweating. Thank you. All right. Engineering. The engineering department is responsible for maintaining all the property plans and records, including sewer assessments, sidewalk, curbing betterments, utility lines, as well as drafting zoning maps and generating legal property descriptions. We provide RE, or resident engineer services, for all the roadway construction projects that happen out in the field, whether it be Chapter 90 or other programs that the city is involved with. We review and evaluate, develop plans, building permits, technical data for reports and compliance with state and federal standards, and the ordinances of the City of Brockton in support of the Planning Board, Zoning Board, and the Building Department and other city agencies. Most of the engineering salaries were moved back from the stormwater budget this year, so you will see an increase in the salary line item. But all in all, we did the best that we could to reduce all of our other line items. So it's a pretty level-funded budget from last year.
Any questions on engineering? Councilor Fowler.
I do not have a question, colleagues, but I would like to point out that we have someone in the engineering department who started work here on September 14th, 1959, probably before some people were born. He will have 65 years under his, I know I'm not supposed to specifically target a particular person, but he'll have 65 years of service, and the salary for that position is only $97,662. I think we got quite an investment with that employee. And if you want to talk about devotion to the city, and if you want to talk about a walking encyclopedia on engineering, that's the person to know. So shout out to your employee that he may be one of the longest serving in the city. I'm not sure, but
I would tend to think that he is, and Howard Newton is a great man, and I have no problem
you said it, I didn't.
using his name.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Next one, sir.
I think we have a question over here.
You have a question?
Thank you.
Thank
you, Mr. Chair.
Ishida.
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner Hill. It's on personal service, not overtime. I see an increase of 38.5%. Did you hire?
I can answer that, Counselor. Yeah. So last year's budget, much of these costs were captured in the Stormwater Enterprise Fund. Because of the new fee structure, the revenue in the Stormwater Enterprise won't support those staff, so we transferred them back to the general fund. When the new Stormwater Authority is fully constituted, they could change the fee structure that would allow for some adjustment of the budgets mid-year, but at this point, we had to place them where they had the revenue to meet the costs.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. I believe that was it. Next item, sir.
Department 7, DPW Highway, Patrick Hill, DPW Commissioner.
And, Mr. Commissioner, let's stay on the road, please.
Mission of the Highway Department is to maintain the city roadways, including coordinating snow and ice removal, cleaning roadway debris, cleaning islands, catch basin cleaning, and river maintenance, maintaining sidewalks, street signs, street lamps, and we also deal with all the city trees. This budget, we did reduce a significant amount of costs. We removed a consultant line item. We knocked down our communication services, reduced our river cleanup, and significant cuts to holiday decorations and paving supplies. Overall, we cut $120,000 in purchase of service and $180,000 in goods and supplies.
Any questions on the highway? Councilor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good evening, Commissioner Hill. Just quickly, maybe you could give us an update on the paving of North Main, North Montello, and some of the Eversource canals or whatever the patches, the roadways that need to be repaved.
So I'll be meeting with Eversource next week to discuss a paving schedule. As soon as I get that schedule, I will get it out to everybody. They're ready to go. So I would expect that to be in the next few weeks. The work on North Main Street, Montello Street, that work continues. They're prepping all the sidewalks and getting everything ADA compliant, and all of that prep work has to happen before they come in and mill and pave. I don't have a schedule for it yet. That work has taken a lot longer than I had expected. They had some significant issues trying to get their subcontractor in to do all that work. But as soon as I get a schedule, I'll get that out to you.
Great. And what about this coming fall, or if that's the time frame for the Chapter 90 streets?
So I would expect probably sometime July or August, after we get a total for the Newbury Street Bridge, after we get a total for some takings that have to occur within the Warren Ave project, some other takings that are going to have to occur on the Center Street project, and we have a better idea of exactly what's left in the Chapter 90 accounts, that we'll probably set something up for the fall for paving. I just don't know how large of a paving year it'll be. Probably around August, I'll have a better idea.
So those projects are going to come off the top of this year's Chapter 90 funds?
Correct. And I mean, just the Newbury Street Bridge alone, you're looking, somewhere between $1.2, $1.5 million. The takings for the Warren Ave two-way project, we're probably looking in the ballpark of $500,000 to $1 million. So rather than commit to some kind of paving program that we can't afford, we'll get through those takings and that bridge repair, and then see what we have left and make a determination of what the paving will look like.
Understood. I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Teixeira.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Commissioner Hill, again. You got a CDL statement here for $10,000. FY '24, you had it for $39,000.
So CDL pay is something, that transfer happens, I believe, through the auditing department, through the, I'm not sure the name of the process, would be a reclass. So it's not built into full-time salaries, so as the full-time salaries come out every week, they reclass the money. I don't know how often, annually. But the CDL pay is part of pretty much everybody's job in the highway.
And second one is working compensation. It's $100,000 this year versus last year was
Workers' comp.
So the increase in workers' compensation, we went through all our budgets this year and tried to look at what the year-to-dates were right before we put the budgets together, and that's what we expect to pay out based off of last year.
okay. A question. So with the CDL, if you don't use that money, it goes back to the
General fund.
general fund?
Yes.
So, okay. Just a question. Thank you, Mr. Hill. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Chair.
Councilor. Anyone else? I just have one quick one. I think it wasn't brought up. You've got $50,000 in separation cost. Are you expecting a whole department to move? Is it?
$50,000 in separation costs would cover maybe 2 employees. So I have a couple of employees that are due any day to retire. Some of them have been there 40-plus years. They have not told me they're going to retire, but I do expect 1 or 2 this year.
All right. Well, and no further questions? Well, thank you on that. Stay seated.
Department number 8, DPW refuse. Patrick Hill, DPW Commissioner.
Thank you for having me. The mission of the DPW refuse department is obviously to pick up trash, tires and debris from all the roadways leading to and from the city of Brockton, city-owned properties, and generally just keeping the city clean. With our rate increase this year, I expect to be able to fill a couple of vacancies that have been in my budget for a couple of years. I do expect a couple of people to come off of workman's comp, so my staff should be full, hopefully by sometime in September. At that time, we'll hopefully be able to entertain a lot more cleaning. So that's about all I have.
Any questions on refuse? Once, twice, 3? Thank you on that. Next one.
Department number 9, DPW maintenance. Patrick Hill, DPW Commissioner.
The DPW maintenance division is basically the 2 gentlemen that work in that division are my mechanics that work down at the highway department. They maintain and repair all of our equipment in highway and in refuse. Very small department, very small budget. No significant cuts in this budget.
Any questions on maintenance? Hearing none? Oh, you have one? Councilor Teixeira.
Quick question thank you, Mr. Chairman. Quick question to Mr. Pat Hill. On the refuse, you don't, no, maintenance, let's get back. I'm jumping around here. You don't have a workers' compensation on your budget here. I didn't see it. Did you skip it?
Oddly enough, I do not.
Then is this maintenance?
Yeah.
So it's not a requirement to have a separate line for that. You can pay work, if you have an employee that's on workers' comp, you can pay those costs out of the regular budget. I think the reason why it appears in the other budget is because it's so large and you have more employees that are susceptible. It helps defray those costs, but because the staff here is fairly small, I believe that's why you traditionally, I can go back and check, Counselor, but I don't believe traditionally we've carried a workers' comp line in this budget because it's a department of only 3 people.
But still employees, they get hurt, right?
They could, but you can pay those workers' comp costs out of the regular salary appropriations is what I'm saying.
Oh, out of that, okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Next item, sir.
Department 10, DPW Water, Patrick Hill, DPW Commissioner.
So the mission of the Water Division is to deliver high-quality, safe drinking water throughout the city, not only to maintain all the water lines in the city, but we provide a 24-hour emergency service to all residents and all homes that are connected to the city of Brockton. We regularly update and replace old, undersized, and inefficient water mains to improve service quality and safety. Some of the services we offer are, permanent inspections. We install, inspect, and perform flow tests. We have an annual flushing program. We have a leak detection program that happens throughout the year. And we maintain 320 miles of water main, 23 active water service connections, 3,000 hydrants, and 5,500 valves. We did make significant cuts in this budget, eliminating some staff that were vacant. We reduced our consulting money significantly and kind of reeled in our public safety line item based off this year's actuals.
Any questions on the water? Councilor Nicastro.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Hill.
Good evening.
On page 265, you list as vacant the water system manager. Is that the gentleman that always gets quoted in the water district?
The water system manager was formerly Mr. Creedon. We are actively looking for somebody. It's a requirement of DEP to have a licensed operator through the DEP. We have not had much luck finding anyone. We will continue to search, but...
Do I understand we've been piggybacking off the license of someone at CDM Smith?
No. Currently, we're piggybacking off a license of the water treatment plant operator, the head water treatment plant operator that works for Veolia, Michael Sassine.
That's the gentleman I'm thinking of, Mike. Yep. Okay, and we can do that?
Yes.
Do we need both?
We do. Because he is the primary treatment operator, he is not technically allowed to do that. They have given us a little bit of leeway while we search for someone.
Okay. And we are actively advertising?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam. Anybody else with the water? No one wants to touch desal? No? Okay. We're going to go to the next one.
Item 11, DPW Sewer, Patrick Hill, DPW Commissioner.
The mission of the Sewer Division, which is an enterprise fund entity, is to maintain all the sewer lines throughout the city of Brockton. We also perform 24-hour maintenance services and are always on call. The sewer division is responsible for performing preventive maintenance work on all the sewer connections and replacing old sewer lines, installing and repairing existing sewer services, marking all the services out for dig safe and all the utility companies and contractors, and inspecting new services as they are put into the ground into service. We perform, maintenance of all the sewer connections. We install and repair new services, maintaining 320 miles of sewer mains, approximately 23,000 active individual sewer services throughout the city. We, this year, removed a couple of positions that were vacant, made some significant cuts in vehicle repairs, property-related services, and engineering to bring in line with this year's actuals. We saw a significant increase in incineration transportation, which is the disposal of all the biosolids that come out of the sewer plant, to the tune of $1.2 to $1.3 million, which brings that overall cost up to $3.6 to $3.7 million. You will see that the budgets that were presented to you have a increase in the projections for the revenues. However, those projections were based off of an increase that we did not receive and that we will be continuing to seek through the ordinance committee.
Questions? Councilor Nacastro and then Texier.
Thank you. Good evening again, Mr. Hill. I see that under personal services, you've got a grant writer listed, and it's a vacant position. And the pay is very low. Is it possible you're splitting
Yes.
that person?
I think a lot of the enterprise funds take a percentage of that person's salary. It is not vacant. Both of the grant writers have been filled. There's no name on this one. I'm not sure which one gets paid out of my budgets, but.
Okay. So it's one of the grant writers that's in the finance department?
That's correct.
Okay, and so part of their pay is being spread over your department?
Yes.
Okay. Have you gotten any grants yet?
We have received a lot of grants, actually. Through these grant writers, I'm trying to think they've just kind of begun, but over the course of the past couple of years, we've received a lot of grants.
Well, you have to tell these new guys to get cracking.
New girls.
That too. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Texier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I got a question for Mr. CFO. On water department, we got 37 employees, and the work composition is 150. On the sewer department, we got 21 employees, it's 215. How do we determine the work compensation? You got more employee, you pay less? No, you got more, yeah, exactly. You got more employee, you pay less, you got...
Just to clarify, Councilor, you're looking at a comparison between workers' compensation costs and water versus sewer?
Correct.
I'll give you my thoughts on that and then certainly defer to the commissioner as well. It's almost impossible to predict how and when and where people are going to get hurt. Some activities, actually job titles in the United States are rated for their likelihood of getting hurt. I'll defer to Pat. I'm not sure if generally sewer workers are more inclined or likely to get hurt on the job than water workers. It could also be a reflection of historic costs and how those costs have trended in water versus sewer. So this is one of those things, it's sort of like health insurance costs. It's impossible to predict. So the funds are there if needed to fund someone, but in this case, in water and sewer, if the money's not needed, then that goes back into retained earnings.
Yeah, and I will say that there are 3 people that have generated a settlement that get paid out of the sewer department. who have not been employed with the city for quite some time. So when they retired, there was some form of settlement made, and the department ends up paying for those. So looking at last year's costs and having one employee out on workman's comp in that department, that's how we came up with that number.
That's how you came up with the number. All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor.
Councilor Powell?
Yes. Commissioner, we allow, I don't know if it's another municipality or a vendor, to bring in, is it sludge, and then we dispose of it? Am I correct?
No.
All right. What is the material that we allow to be brought in and we dispose of it?
Septage.
I'm sorry?
Septage.
Septage?
Yes.
All right. And we charge for that?
We do.
And is it per?
It's per gallon.
Oh, it's per gallon?
Yes.
And the revenue is significant, insignificant, or?
It varies from month to month. We've seen a pretty substantial increase lately because some of the septage receiving facilities in the area have shut down. Okay. So we've seen a large influx of vehicles. Sometimes it's $30,000 in a month. Sometimes it's $45,000 in a month. Sometimes it's, you know, in the winter months when there's not a lot of septage pumping being done due to frost or what have you. Those costs come significantly down. Right, but I think it'd be pretty fair to say somewhere in the $350,000, $300,000 a year if things stay consistent.
Is that revenue included in your projections for this fiscal year 25?
Yes.
It is?
Yes.
Do we have the capacity to do more and increase revenue? Should we?
I mean, septage receiving is, I don't know, I mean, we're certainly not out advertising for it, but we do not turn anyone away. It's done at most wastewater facilities. The closest facility around here, I believe, is Taunton. I think for a while they shut down their septage receiving due to some treatment issues that they were having. But, I mean, when it comes, we take it. That's all I can tell you.
Okay. And it's the sludge that we have to transport.
The biosolids, yes.
Right, the biosolids. So I still haven't been able to find out, what do other communities do that have a wastewater treatment plant? Where do they send their biosolids? And if they don't treat them on site? And do you have any other communities that you know that perhaps dispose of the biosolids and we wouldn't have to have that contract to go to Connecticut, which is so pricey? I mean, there's got to be other communities in Massachusetts that are in the same position that we are.
So because of the PFAS residuals in biosolids, it used to be land applied in a lot of places. A lot of biosolids would go to Maine, they would go to New Hampshire, they would land apply and then level them. The state of Maine has completely shut down receiving of biosolids and land applying them. The state of New Hampshire is currently maxed out and is looking to shut off land application. Right now, the company that we use to dispose of our biosolids, Denali, they bring them to Rhode Island and they bring them to New York. They are land applied in New York. They are incinerated in Rhode Island.
What does the MWRA do with all their sewage?
The MWRA treats all their stuff at the facility on Deer Island, and they pelletize it. However, pelletizing biosolids is basically pelletizing a PFAS product, so that is due to be banned by EPA very soon.
So they're going to be looking for an outlet for...
Or they'll have to come up with some form of technology to treat it there.
Okay. All right, I guess for the coming fiscal year, we are where we are. I'm kind of hoping our financial position will change with respect to that disposal of the biosolids, because it's significant.
We did get a $2 million grant from the congressional directed spending to engage in the design of a facility to treat the biosolids at the sewer plant. We're getting ready to put that out through RFP for a designer. As soon as that is awarded, we will begin the process of looking at how to better deal with the biosolids.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Anyone else? Councilor Texer?
I'm busy tonight. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioner Hill. On the contract service, you got a 46.5 increase. Can you explain?
So last year, that item was not reflective of the actual contractual amount, so we put the actual contractual amount in it this year. So it's, the increase is not that significant. It just looks significant from within the budget. It only went up 2% from last year.
Just to expand on that, Councilor, we chatted about this briefly at the Ordinance Committee meeting. One of the challenges with this enterprise is that the fee structure has not kept up with the costs of the enterprise. And so one of the things we can't do is project expenses that exceed revenues. So Pat is correct. In the current budget, we had to reduce some of the costs to actually match the revenues that we thought we could get. So that entire category is $10.6 million for this year. So there's some flexibility, but one of our challenges that we talked about, and the reason why the request for an adjustment in the rates is that the revenues are not meeting the demands of the operation.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Next ones.
Department 12, DPW Stormwater, Patrick Hill, DPW Commissioner.
Well, I think I already gave my speech on this one, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
And here.
Councilor Nicastro.
Thank you. Good evening yet again, Mr. Hill. I was asked to ask you how many stormwater permits have been issued in the past fiscal year?
How many stormwater permits have been?
Permits have been issued, yes.
By me, I have not issued any. The stormwater permits will be issued by the Stormwater Commission, which currently is awaiting appointments.
Okay. So the Stormwater Commission will be how many people and who appoints them?
So the Stormwater Commission consists of 6 people. I will serve as the chair. However, I do not vote or do not have any authority. 3 people are one from DPW, one from Finance. I believe the mayor appoints one. The president of the city council appoints 2. I think that's so there's 6 people on the commission.
Okay.
6 voting members on the
So
commission.
while we're sitting here, when do you think we'll start appointing people to this so it can get up and running? Because we passed the ordinance, revising it and
October.
creating it.
Yeah.
Right, almost a year ago.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't have any authority to appoint anyone, Counselor, so I guess that would be a better question for someone else.
Okay.
You mean the former councilor? Is that who you're talking?
I'm sorry?
You're saying the former councilor is the person that needs to answer that question?
The former
I guess
councilor.
they-
And you.
I guess they missed it.
I think that's you.
It's me?
You don't have to get up. Counselor, I get to appoint 1 as mayor. The president appoints 2. I have not had anybody interested. You'll see on Monday a couple boards and commissions before you that people are interested in, conservation and some others. If there's anybody watching or if any of the councilors know anybody, I know you and I, Councilor Castro, have chatted about it. I'm ready, willing, and able to do the process, get a resume, get a letter of interest, we do a Zoom interview, and then I'll put that person forward. But as of yet, and I can't speak for the president, but I haven't had anybody knocking down the door to join this specific board.
Okay.
I
And
think we have one person who's has shown interest in doing that, so
You got a
once
live
we're
one?
done with this budget thing, I think we'll move it.
okay, that would be great.
One person
If-
isn't going to do anything. I mean, we need to get it, the
If you
whole,
both don't mind, I'll follow up with you.
Yes, that sounds good.
Okay,
Thank you.
Mr.
Thanks,
Hill, I
Pat.
have another question for you. So have any notices of violations been written?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
And who would write those?
The city engineer?
But you're not aware of any?
I am not.
Would you have to get a copy?
I would.
Okay, so by virtue of not receiving a copy, you don't think any have been written?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. So if you're not aware of any being written, you're not aware of any being enforced?
Correct.
Okay. I was asked by a constituent to ask you those questions. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Councilor. Anybody else? Commissioner, before you go, because I think that's the last one.
That's the last one, yeah.
Before you go, I think I would like to ask you to pass along our gratitude to the men and women in the Water and Sewer Department. Those, actually in the entire DPW department, those are the true heroes in this city. I mean, we were here Tuesday discussing massive payments from across the street. I was out here doing my math, and the average men and women in those departments, they make an average of $60,000 a year. And they're out here in the middle of the winter digging up canals and digging up all kinds of stuff. So please share that with them, the gratitude from this body, in a sense.
Thank you, Councilor. And I will say, I mean, I have a great staff. They really come to work every day and they do a great job. You know, one thing I will point out is the Hagler Park that was just built. That was built by 3 members of my staff, in-house. Saved the city a lot of money. They did a phenomenal job, and I want to name them too. You know, Chad Salucci, Daryl Mendez, and Manny Hernandez. That was also designed by my GIS coordinator with a $500 piece of software. So they do a wonderful job. They're always around when we need them. They're, like you said, they're, you know, in the freezing cold, fixing water mains, plowing, sanding for 40, 50 hours at a time sometimes. And I'm just grateful to be in charge of that department. One other person I want to kind of call out to is my business manager, Ilya. He's done a fantastic job. He's been with me since January. He's really reeled in a lot of expense issues and identified some things that I probably never would have noticed. So thank you, and thank you, everyone.
Oh, thank you. And you are free to go, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Department 13, Auditor Irene Giannopoulos, Interim Auditor.
Madam Auditor, welcome.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Honorable Council, for taking the time to listen to the accomplishments and services the City Auditor's Office provides. I'm going to go a little out of order here in terms of the pages in the budget book. I'm going to start with our performance measures. So this Honorable Council and the taxpayers at home have an understanding of what we're able to churn out in an entire fiscal year. FY23 actuals, we processed 21,213 purchase orders. We service 5,724 vendors, city and school side. Processed 360 payrolls. Paychecks processed, and I'm going to give credit also to the city treasury for this, 126,405. Employees serviced, city and school side, 4,474. Journals posted, journals are accounting entries, 16,732. And requests, you know, around 3,900. So the City Auditor's Office is tasked with protecting the fiduciary interests of the city. All payrolls, vendor warrants go through our office. Tax forms are sent out for all city employees, W-2s, W-2 corrections sometimes, 1099 forms to our, how many vendors? 5,724. Along with the many services that my department performs with our staff of, I believe, 9 total, and we do have some vacancies. Currently, we have a vacancy for the Assistant City Auditor. I'm performing both of those functions. And we recently have an additional vacancy for an Admin 2. So we're down from 4 to 3. While maintaining all of these functions and servicing countless employees and vendors within the city, we were able to accomplish, I think, 15 bullet points. I won't name them all. We implemented policies and procedures and continue to do so for automating our EFT process. We'd like to go as paperless as possible. And yes, accountants also care about the environment. We reconciled grant awards. We enacted a new grant process where we have a form now that we fill out, that departments can fill out, and streamline the process in putting grants on our accounting system. We provide all services when it comes to the mail and telephone. We continue to abide by all state guidelines per the DOR for filling out the balance sheet, assisting to certify the tax rate in a timely manner. We also heavily assisted with helping to mitigate a $14 million school deficit. Even with doing that, we were able to officially close the year end, which was no easy feat, and secure a positive free cash figure. With that being said, I'd like to thank my staff members. There is, I don't want to get emotional here, but there is no way I wouldn't have done it without them. And I hate when I get emotional. With that being said, for our FY25 budget, we're asking for a small increase from this Honorable Council of $49,000. That's to offset costs from hiring a compliance and technical control operator. This is my employee that handles all the grants. We moved him from being our intern to hiring him full-time, and now he's part of the full-time line salary. I welcome any questions.
Council Powell? Good evening, Madam Auditor. A couple of things. There's a narrative being driven in this community by certain people that we have no internal financial controls, and that's what caused the school department deficit, when in fact, frankly speaking, the deficit was caused because people didn't tell us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth about what was going on over there. And government exists because of the integrity in people. I mean, you operate on the assumption that people will tell you what's going on, and then you can remediate it and address it when it happens, and that didn't occur. But I'd like you to talk a little bit about the controls that you have, not only within your office, but over the DOR has over you. I mean, you report to a lot of people, and if I'm not mistaken, you're bonded, are you not? Isn't that a requirement? Or no, you're the interim auditor, probably not as the interim, but you have people in state, and I would assume federal government, that monitors grants that you have to provide information to. And tell us a little bit about what your office does to make sure that we meet that fiduciary responsibility. And keeping in mind that the chair doesn't want to be here at 5 in the morning. So.
I'll try to be as brief as possible.
We're down to 3 now, 3 o'clock. Okay, doing good.
Along with filling out a balance sheet, which is a series of, I think, 15 different tabs that goes into detail of every fund that's put on the accounting system, there are figures that we have to run off of our accounting system for things like our debt, our snow and ice, our receivables, our treasurer's cash balance. And it's closely monitored by the DOR in a sense that they want to see reports off of our accounting system, as do our external auditors who audit us. Controls are in place. It's not a matter of a lack of control. It's a matter of understanding that everything's always being watched and everything will always get uncovered. I'd like to say I kind of go off the tangent here when I talk numbers because I'm a numbers person, which is why I don't really I've never really gone into the legal profession. I feel like there's too much room for interpretation there. Numbers are more finite. now I lost my train of thought. It's hard to mask figures. And I'll leave it at that.
Unless you don't enter them into the Muni system. Unless you don't forward those figures to the responsible person where they should be either recorded or addressed, which goes back to my, whatever lack of internal financial controls there may be, it could be because we have people who don't perform their job to the level that it should be, or there isn't that seamless communication between all entities within the city. And I mean, you and I have talked about improving the schools, and I don't have to preach to Mr. Claxon or the mayor. They've been through it for the last 11 months. You and I have spoken a lot. I think when we get through the budget, would it be fair to say to my colleagues, there are a lot of things that we can do that don't have a lot of cost implications, but will raise this city to another level in terms of inventory, asset management and things like that. So I'll just leave it at that. Would you say that's a fair statement, that we could have you come back and maybe talk to us a little bit about some of the things we can do to really raise Brockton to the next level?
Absolutely. I'd be glad to come back and return and talk in more detail about my ideas.
All right. We're down to 2 o'clock, Mr. Chairman. So.
2 o'clock sounds very, very good. I have Minicello, Texera, and then Duranencourt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have a question, but I have a comment. First and foremost, I just want to say thank you. As the chair of the accounting committee, you helped me a lot. I learned a lot with you. And I know you wear different hats. Brockton, definitely, this city needs somebody like you that cares, that's willing to teach us. Because we all here, it's a learning process for every one of us. And every time I called you, you answered my phone call, I knock on your door, you dare to talk to me. By saying that, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate what you do to our city.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Don't start crying now.
I won't.
Councilor Minicello.
Good evening, Madam Auditor. Nice to see you. Like Councilor Texera, you do a wonderful job, especially in our Accounts Review Subcommittee, providing us with what we need. So I certainly compliment you on that. I just have a couple of small items. It looks like postage and audit mail have gone up a little bit. Is that just the economy? Is that what is the, I guess, cause for those increases?
Councilor, that's the next item. Mail.
I'm sorry. What is it?
It's the next one that we're going to be talking about, so.
Make it all one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But you can do the other thing and then come back with the mail.
Oh, okay.
Tell her how great she is and all that other
Wonderful.
stuff.
She's
and
just
then
wonderful.
Pause, and then we'll go to the next.
I'm off the mark, but she's just the best. Let's see. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll come back, but thank you for
Thank you.
not making fun of me like my council president. That's all.
Councilor Duranencourt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Madam Auditor. This question is actually for the CFO. Based on what I'm looking at right now, right, so it seems like the auditor position has been vacant. And based on this number, it's $127,680. That's for the auditor. And I see that the interim auditor is making $135,456. Can you explain those numbers?
Sure. Those numbers are set by your ordinance, and so the number that was placed in the budget for the auditor for the vacant position is the bottom level of that ordinance position, the salary range that's set by ordinance. The interim auditor has been here for some time, so she's being paid at a higher rate of pay. So if and when she goes back to being the assistant auditor, she'll go back to that lower rate of pay. So that's the difference.
So, I mean, sorry, maybe I'm somewhat confused. So, the auditor, by virtue of having, obviously, a new person, will make, based on what I'm looking at right now, will make less
No.
than the...
No, because the interim auditor is making the salary of the city auditor because she's acting in that capacity.
That would be based on number of years of service?
Correct.
Okay, so as of right now, if I may, Madam Auditor, how long you been a assistant auditor for the city?
I was assistant auditor from November of 2022 to, I think, July of 2023, when I became acting auditor for the first time. That lasted from July to October of 2023. I went back to assistant auditor from November to March of 2024, and since March of 2024 to present day, I'm acting.
So let me just put it to you like this. Well, let's say that, I mean, obviously it's a job. Obviously the city is advertising it, and you assume that responsibility. That would be your pay?
No, I can answer that, Counselor. No. So again, the salaries for both the auditor and the assistant auditor are set by ordinance. The city auditor position that's vacant that's I believe, I'd have to go back and check the ordinance, but that is the lowest level on the different levels for the salary in the ordinance. Irene is acting in that capacity now, so she is receiving a higher rate of pay while she does that job. But there are two positions, an auditor and an assistant auditor. The salaries for both are prescribed by ordinance. And so, there could be several different scenarios, but let's just say someone is hired to fill the auditor's position, then they will come in at that initial salary. And if Irene goes back to the assistant auditor, then her pay would go back to the pay as the assistant auditor. So there would not ever be a scenario in which the assistant auditor was making more than the auditor.
So it's like, if I understand what you are saying correctly, so the reason why that pay is like that, it's by virtue of her, I would assume, somewhat doing two jobs. So she receives some kind of increase because of assuming that role.
Correct.
But let me just put it to you like this. So technically, right, we do know how much the auditor potentially will make. I'm assuming it's steps, right? The city goes by steps, like level 1, level 2. What would be the assistant auditor makes by virtue of that number? So it's not in here.
Off the top of my head, and again, it's in the ordinance, so I can send it to you. I think it's 106 to 115, something like that.
So like in this, well, obviously this is the budget book. It says assistant auditor for school finances. Why didn't you guys put that in the budget?
Well, so that's a great question, Counselor. That is actually based on an ordinance that you recently passed creating those positions. So that 106,917 is the actual salary in the ordinance for that new position that was created.
That would be for the schools, not for the city of Brockton.
No, it's a.
Counselor, I can give you a point of information on that. That wouldn't be in here because you actually are passing that Monday night. It hasn't been passed for its final passage till this month. It's on your agenda for Monday night. So it's not even a position officially yet because you as a council have passed it through ordinance, but the final passage is on or third reading or
third reading.
Passing to a third reading. So you won't even make that.
It's the third reading on Monday.
So Monday night at your full council meeting is when you'll actually be, if it passes, which I assume it will, that's when you'll actually be creating that job. And then they'll have to fund it if they're ready to and if they can find the money for it. So the reason that's not in the budget, it's not a job yet until you approve it Monday night.
So Mr. Clerk, if I understand you correctly, the assistant auditor for the city is what we will pass on Monday, or the assistant auditor for the school?
And assistant auditor specifically for...
That would be like two positions.
So there would be two positions, correct. And just as a point of information, and when you asked me, both of those jobs have 4 steps. The top step of the assistant auditor is below that 127. I think it is 116. So if Ms. Giannopoulos goes back to assistant auditor, I believe she might be at third step is what I'm looking at. But that top step of the assistant auditor is below the low step of the auditor.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Thank you,
And I apologize when you asked me that, I missed that.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're good?
I'm all set, Mr. Clerk.
Anybody else? Thank you. Next one, please.
Item 14, Auditor, Mail. Irene Giannopoulos, Interim Auditor.
That was mail for Minichella.
Mailroom. Mail,
Okay.
M-A-I-L.
Go ahead, ma'am. It usually happens by the time we get to the third night of the budget hearings. It gets a little silly, but please do.
In terms of an increase in postage, there's a lot more activity going on in the city when it comes to large bulk mailings due to construction and such. And we all know that the national postage rate goes up almost every year now, so I believe we wanted to cushion that budget. We never want to not have money for postage in the city.
If I might, Mr. Chair, it's also a presidential election year, so we do anticipate a pretty significant amount of mail-in votes, and those are, all the postage for the city is paid out of that line.
Oh, we don't get it pro bono? No? We have to pay for it? Okay, well, thank you for that clarification. Anybody? Council Minichella, this is your
Thank you.
item.
Thank you so much for answering that question. With regard to part-time, monies carved out for part-time salaries, looks like we have $15,000. I don't see any part-time employees. Is that for perhaps any internships or something, or things like that? For the
Interns, even if I needed to hire a temp, if there was ever a situation, they would come out of that line item.
Do you get any summer interns? Is there anyone this summer that's shown any interest in?
Historically, this office does have summer interns. I hope to find the time to solicit one and find and get one in my office.
So who would be a good candidate for that? Like someone that's into accounting, I guess, or that sort of a?
More than likely, someone who's pursuing a bachelor's degree in accounting or business or finance. It would definitely be a numbers person and someone very detail-oriented.
Okay, great. If we know of anyone, we will recommend them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All set.
That was it?
That's it.
I thought it was
hard questions, aren't they?
You made it sound like you had a real good.
Oh, yeah, I found the golden pot of money. Yes, yes.
Anybody else for the mail?
Item 15, Auditor, Telephone. Irene Giannopoulos, Interim Auditor.
Telephone, this budget covers the city's landlines. We have an account with Verizon, I believe 28 accounts for each department, and various office equipment in the past for servicing the telephones, which doesn't really happen as much anymore, so that's the telephone.
Anybody wants to make a phone call? No? No calls? All right, we're good on that one. Next one.
Last one, Department 16, Retirement, Non-Contributory. Irene Giannopoulos, Interim Auditor.
I can assist Irene with this one. This is an annual amount that the city, as you can see on page 427, has a pension outside of the system that's existed for some time. And so this is just the annual contribution for that.
Any questions with regards to that? Hearing none? Good. Next one.
Department 17, Assessors. John O'Donnell, Chairman, Board of Assessors.
Thank you, Madam Auditor.
Thanks, Irene.
Mr. Assessor, let's assess this.
Good evening, councilors. The mission of the Assessor's Office is to value all real and personal property efficiently, fairly, accurately, and at full market value in accordance with Massachusetts general laws. The Assessor's Office is responsible for the administration of all laws and regulations regarding property tax assessments. Regarding my budget, the Assessor's budget's been reduced 15.9%. I currently have 2 vacancies, a unfunded admin job that's been due to retirement back in August, and I'm currently interviewing for an assessor's position that we'll be filling this summer. Our part-time salaries was reduced from $30,000 down to $18,000, and we now have overtime, $15,000 overtime due to the lack of a third clerk. I'll answer any questions you may have.
Councilor Nicastro.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. O'Donnell.
Good evening.
So, Mr. O'Donnell, by law, you have to have 3 members of the Board of Assessors, right?
Yes.
So you've had Julie left.
Yes, she went
She
to
retired.
another community, yes.
And so are you hampered at all by not having 3?
No, at one time, the city only had 1 for a number of years, so, no, I think the Department of Revenue will give you a hard time for one for an extended period of time. But we're interviewing, we've already interviewed 1 person, we've got 2 more people to interview, so we should have it filled. We'll have a person in front of you probably this summer.
So you are in the process of filling
Yes.
it? That's good.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anyone else? Councilor Duranencourt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. O'Donnell, in regard to auction, right, does the Assessor's Office has an obligation to, how do I put this, provide a list of cities, auction buildings?
The auction list is provided by the city treasurer. They're for tax possession properties. So if an individual is looking for them, they'd have to go to the treasurer's office. They have a list.
So it's like if the real estate committee won't have, well, not by law, I'm assuming you guys have to provide in it. So it's like your office has nothing to do with this?
I assist the treasurer in it, but no, my office doesn't keep the list because they're all tax title properties that we auction off. So it's held by the city treasurer.
I know that the city of Brockton does not have a, what you call it, auctioners, the person who's auctioned, something like this, right? So in terms of hiring that person, does the office have something to do with that?
No, that would begin with the treasurer. He's now the real estate custodian. The mayor just appointed him last month, I think. So he has plans to have an auction, I believe, in the near future.
So all of this, in terms of like auctions, providing the lease, will fall under the Treasury Department.
Yep.
Is this something new, or this is how it has been done always?
That's how it always been.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And Mr. O'Donnell, once those lists are ready, it comes back to the council for disposition, right?
Yes. No, tax title properties, no. Tax title properties, no.
So before the properties are...
But I believe Mr. Brophy contacts the councilors with the list. That's what they've done in the past.
Okay. So that's what the list will come to us, and we'll have an idea that it's being done.
Yes. He said that at real estate the other night, I believe, when it was asked.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I'm not a member of that, so I haven't really received this information. I think if I did, I probably wouldn't answer the question, but I think
that's okay.
Each of us, has an obligation to actually, know what's going on.
It'll come back to the entire council, not just the committee. It'll come to the whole body for us to see.
Excellent. Thank you. Appreciate it, man.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Next item, sir.
Department 18, Public Property, James Pluff, Superintendent of Buildings.
Evening, Mr. Chair, councilors. Public property is the official title of our department, but you might know us as Inspectional Services, the Building Department, Health Inspectors, the custodians. We have a multifaceted division here in our department. We handle the custodial services for multiple buildings, the War Memorial, the Council on Aging, Shaw Center, City Hall. We've now been added to the Annex building, which we are temporarily using for our office, and also from Montauk Road. I have 4 full-time day custodians and 2 nighttime custodians. I also have, under my public property department, 2 carpenters, 2 electricians, an HAC person, and a plumber, and 1 foreman. So that's the public property department. We handle all the maintenance for the city buildings for small projects. And then also, we assist the school department for stuff at the schools. And then we have a complement of 8 inspectors, 6 sanitary and 2 code enforcement officers for the Board of Health section of our inspectional services. And then we also have 4 building inspectors on the rolls, 3 electrical inspectors, and 2 plumbing inspectors that handle construction inspections and code enforcement. And including myself, I also have a deputy commissioner and a chief of inspections. As this council made a change this past year, or the previous council made a change last year, they created inspectional services as an ordinance, and that brought those 8 sanitary and 6 sanitary and 2 code enforcement officers from the Board of Health to the building department. We have just a couple general numbers here. I know no one really cares about too much specific, but we issued about 800 to 1,000 violations this year. We've collected just over $61,000. Well, we issued over $61,000 in fines and collected about $20,000. And we're working with the law department to try to collect the rest of them in the future. We've issued for building permits. We've had a total of 3,929. I said I wasn't too specific, but I'm a building inspector, so I like to have those numbers out there. In total, with building, wiring, and plumbing, just under 8,000 permits. We've also done over 1,100 certificate of fitnesses. We've conducted approximately 4,400 inspections, permitted 700 and some dumpsters. One thing that I'm very proud of recently is some of our sanitary inspectors are enforcing the tobacco regulations with the state. And we've had, as I believe a councilor mentioned earlier, some citations issued. I have a number here of about 32 citations for $51,000 worth of fines. And those are steep fines set by the state, mandatory fines. And then, in general, we have about 220 restaurant inspections since last July, and we permitted approximately 25 to 26 food trucks. With that, I'll open up my questions, if anyone has any.
Council Ladler. And then
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And then Powell.
For the folks at home who missed it, Councilor Texera and I were both leaving our hands up to see who you'd catch first. Good evening, Mr. Superintendent.
Good evening, Councilor.
The city's superintendent, the one without a deficit. Personnel's up 300,000. I know that there's been a lot of moving around, so I just wanted to put a little more light on that.
Certainly. So our personnel services has not changed in the number of people per se. We took on, as part of the ordinance, we took on the weights and measures, the 2 members of the board, not the board, the 2 members of the weights and measures department. While the ordinance had put them under us last year, the budget did not. So as of this year, they are now accounted for in our budget. In addition, from last year, we added those sanitary and code enforcement officers into our budget, along with hiring the chief of inspections and a deputy commissioner.
Fair enough. You've got some part-time salaries as well. Are those for interns?
Yes and no. Our part-time salaries in our department pay for the zoning board members who get paid through the ordinance. And then there's a certain amount left over in there that I am looking to use for an intern. I right now have a resume for somebody that is in public health. We're going to interview that person and see if it's a good fit. It'd be very minor, not part-time. It's not a lot in part-time salaries.
No, fair enough. Something when we spoke prior to the budget that I thought was pretty interesting, filing-wise, is your in-state travel. It's not something we typically anticipate in the department, but I know that you did explain it. But for the folks at home, could you explain the in-state travel line item?
Certainly. In-state travel is mileage reimbursement for our inspectors. So all, with the exception of one vehicle, which I think is an electric vehicle that the department uses, and with the exception of the vehicles for my command staff, all the inspectors are get reimbursed for the mileage.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Texiera, Falwell, and then Duranencourt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Superintendent. Just a quick question.
Sure.
Separate cost.
Separation costs?
Yeah, separation cost, $80,000. Can you explain that to me?
Sure. I have 3 members of my staff who are at retirement age, and that are looking at the possibility of retiring. One in February and a couple also next spring. So we're looking at high costs, paying out for retirement, for the vacation, sick time, anything else on the books.
So buy back vacation times and sick times.
That's correct. And anything that's not used will go back to the general fund.
Wonderful. All right, appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Falwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Plouffe, you and I have worked closely on a number of different things, including setting up code enforcement.
Yes.
And so what I want to say to you is not a criticism, I guess it's a call to action, and that is we've got to do more code enforcement. Now, you have a certain personality, I have a personality. I think it's fair to say, in terms of enforcement, it's not your favorite thing to do. Would that be a fair statement?
No, it would not be.
It would not be.
I like to stay strict to the law, strict to the rules.
Okay, then if that's true, then I think we need to look at dumpsters that aren't enclosed. I think we need to somehow develop a program to check on illegal apartments that are in the city, because if I'm not mistaken, there were a couple of people that had to flee out of the building today that were living in the cellar, and I'm not prejudging, I'm not saying that was a dwelling, but if it was, match up electric meters to buildings, check with the postal department. We're not doing what I hoped we would do with this new program and with having an assistant commissioner to try to take the pressure off you and a chief of inspections. And I just, we can talk about it more after the budget is over, but I just want to say to you, I'm looking for more. I'm looking for more. I'm looking for fair, consistent enforcement, educating people where we can, enforcing the law against people that just do not want to cooperate with us. In terms of the school department, if they do work and it requires a permit, I expect the permit to be pulled. That's not your fault, that's theirs. And I expect our people, whoever it may be, to go over there and do what needs to be done. And I know that hasn't happened. The law department, I know, has been involved, I think, a couple of years ago, and maybe some wiring in the auditorium or something like that. But the interconnection between departments, you're actually in charge of every building in the city. I know some people over there don't think so, but by law, you are. And there really shouldn't be anything going on in a public building in terms of alteration, work that requires a permit. It should all go through you, because you are that important under, I think it's Chapter 143, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't have any question about your budget. I just want you to know I'll back you up. If you send your personnel out to do more work, if you send them out to do more code inspection, you have an ally here, and I like to say I'm not the proverbial shrinking violet. I mean, I'll speak up and back you, and I think the mayor will back you. I wouldn't be afraid that somebody's going to sue us or someone's going to claim discrimination. We can document what we can do, what we do, document the law as it exists and the fact that there's a violation, but code enforcement is so important because it can mean someone's life. It literally can. So I'm going to be looking for some more, and I'm not saying that tongue in cheek. I mean, I'm going to be looking for some more because I know we have the talent. I know the resources are limited. I know you're capable, so I want to go forward.
Well, I thank you for that, Councilor. Speaking about the fire this morning, I glanced down the basement, and it wasn't a living apartment. It was two people residing in the basement of the building. And
I'm sorry, they were what?
Residing in the basement. They weren't. It wasn't an apartment.
Okay.
Per se.
But we do have them because I've had people drive around the city and they'll see bulkheads that go down into a subterranean area where people live. And if you don't have the ability to get out of a building, it can cost you your life. And if it involves children, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think there are records that we can match up to find out where these problem areas are, maybe even the public. I've often thought, and we used to have this at the police department, we had a drop-a-dime number. I'd actually, Mr. Mayor, with all due respect, I'm not a big fan of see-click fix. I think sometimes the things get sent to the wrong office. Maybe there should be a code enforcement hotline where people can anonymously call up and say, listen, I happen to know my neighbor is renting out the basement. There's no way of getting out of there except the rear bulkhead, and I'm concerned that somebody is going to burn to death. Maybe we should think about that. That's not an expensive way of enhancing code enforcement. And I'm not talking about some draconian action where we take everyone to court, but fair, consistent, uniform application of the law is, I think, the best bet for helping to clean up the city. So I'll get off my soapbox for now, and I thank you for all your efforts.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
Councilor Durancourt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Bluff, a few months ago, obviously, you came in front of the council. I believe one of my colleagues, filed an ordinance, which when we had you here, I expressed my desire of having somebody in your office that is able to speak either French or Haitian Creole. And based on, what I'm looking at, we still do not have that. And to be fair, I mean, given the population that we are serving, and of course, we do have a large, if not the second majority, in terms of population in the city that speak the language, and I think it is a necessity, that we have somebody like this. This is not just to you. This is something that I spoke with the clerk about and other people, and I think it's a necessity. And I know, some people will argue that this is America, we speak English, but I guess some of us do speak other languages. And recently, based on conversation that I have with people, been in touch with your office, there was some kind of miscommunication in terms of what was explained to them and what they didn't understand, whereby I had to go and try to understand it. So, I cannot tell you what to do. I will not force you, but I think it is important that for your department to have somebody who can somewhat articulate, in that language, and when you face with situation like the one that I spoke to you about recently, whereby we can have somebody that can actually explain to these people in terms of like what they have to do and how they have to do it. Because at the end of the day, not being able to speak English does not mean you are incompetent, or that does not mean you don't have the ability to comprehend. And being able to speak English does not mean you are able to do certain things. And at the end of the day, I always see, language as a way of communicating. The reason I'm saying this to you is that looking at your budget, looking at your staff, and, based on what I'm looking at, you do not have that person, or you do not have somebody. I'm assuming City Hall does have people, that you can call and ask to help you out, but having somebody on the street, and especially with, some of the stuff that my colleague, Councilor Farrell, just stated, to go out there and talk to these people, and maybe somebody would like to call your office, but that person is not able to speak English, and by virtue of that, he or she cannot report this information. And I think it is in the interest of the city to have something like this. This community is paying taxes, this community is investing in the city, and I think they deserve somebody who can talk to them. I'm not asking for 2 or 3 or 4, and I hope that before the end of the year, or if not next year when you come in front of the city council, if I'm still here, I would like to see something like this. And I think you do have the ability to do it. I mean, I think, like I said, it would be in the best interest of the city of Brockton to have something like this, because, you know, we have a lot of people coming here, and sometimes they don't know, okay? They don't know, and by virtue of them do not know, sometimes they pay consequences, especially with the situation that you and I are dealing with now. I'm assuming if this person knows, like, the process and the people to talk to, maybe, you know, he or she wouldn't make that mistake, which is costing, you know, your time and costing her a lot of money as we speak. And I hope that, you know, next time, you know, we are here, you know, I would like not to make such a comment. And I know some people may not care about it, but this is something that I take personally in terms of like investing in our community. At the end of the day, it is one community. We speak multiple languages, and that's the beauty of diversity. And by virtue of me speaking like this, people can see that I speak in other languages. And I know I heard comment before like, well, he or she must speak English. Well, let's face it, we speak multiple languages. And at the end of the day, these people may not be able to speak English, but let me just put it to you like this. They pay taxes. They may not be able to speak Spanish. They pay taxes. So, you know, to keep it short, I hope you will listen to my voice, and if not, concern, and hopefully, you know, somehow, somewhere, you know, one of these days that in your department, you know, I will see somebody that can speak, and that person doesn't have to be Haitian. I mean, you don't have to be Haitian to speak English. You don't have to be Haitian to speak French. You don't have to be Haitian to speak Creole. I just want to see somebody who's able to speak in that. I'm not talking about somebody who can actually collect words. And you may have a Haitian person who does not know how to speak English, right? You may have a Haitian person who does not know how to speak French. I just want somebody who can articulate in this language and serve, you know, the second majority population in the city of Brockton. So with that being said, I will leave it there, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, and Council, I appreciate that sentiment. I can't promise you that there's going to be any positions open to be able to hire someone into the office, but when we have a position open, we will take all considerations for multilingual and you know, people that can serve this community correctly.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Commissioner.
Thank you, Councilor Tavares, and then Councilor Castro.
I thank you, Mr. Postle, for being here today.
Thank you.
Actually, I am just going to be talking about my word, which I constantly call you guys about code enforcement. The first question is going to go, how many code enforcement outside do you have right now?
We have 2.
Okay. Do you think the 2 code enforcement outside for all Brockton is going to work?
It's not ideal.
All right. I get tons of calls every day, photos, and sometimes I send to you, and thank you, I appreciate it, because every time I call you, the job is get done, and I'm gonna appreciate another code enforcement to Jimmy Doucette and Jay. They do a tremendous good job every time I call them, to be honest with you. But especially like right now, I'm gonna concentrate on word 2. If you drive by, it does not look good. It's a lot of trash outside, and then I get calls every day, especially right now. They call about grass, especially like on Thursday, because we got to pick up trash every Thursday. Sometimes they didn't get all the trash, and a lot of trash left outside on the street. It just driving me crazy. I don't know how can we kind of literally work together to enforce the code more, or even to kind of find a way to work with the counselors and to hire more code enforcement, because it's a lot of work, it's a lot of calls, because I remember when there was there, I take like, 50 calls, and then even though it's a process to kind of finalize to deal with one person, because if they didn't go in compliance, sometimes we got to take them to the court, and in the meantime, we got to take another call. What I would try to say is, any violation we see outside is not going to be enough time for us to kind of enforce, because we have enough to deal with that. We got to take care of whatever we get called to work on it, because it's a follow-up. I think for me, code enforcement in Brockton is the most important, because it's horrible. Every time people say, oh, God, Brockton is terrible, trash all over the place, and does not looking good, you know what I mean? I think we need to kind of find ways to kind of hire more code enforcement. I know it's 2 code enforcement inside, it's 2 outside. I believe it's still the same, right?
I'm sorry?
Inside, what about inside? I mean, inside you don't have.
Well, we have, in that section of my department, we have 8 inspectors, 6 sanitary inspectors and 2 code enforcement. The sanitary inspector being somebody that goes in and does inspections on the inside, but is not negated from doing outside inspections also. So we have our sanitary inspectors doing both.
Okay.
But for strictly code enforcement outside, we have 2.
Correct.
That don't go in and do sanitary inspections, don't do restaurants and stuff.
I know that. And then this is the thing I want to talk to all the counselors, because it's not enough for 2 code enforcement outside to try to enforce the code to make Brockton look a little attractive and literally clean it. For example, if you drive by tomorrow, my word, tomorrow, you see the calls, you see what's going on, because it's right there in front of us. And then that look like we're not doing a great job, like, everybody saying Brockton is dirty. I have a conversation actually with him one time about it. Everybody tried to do a great job. I'm not saying they're not trying to not doing a good job, but it's not enough resource or it's not enough staff, because I've been there. I know the pain, I know the feeling, I know exactly what I'm talking about because I deal with that before. And then I hope, like all the counselor or whatever, we can work together and find ways to literally to kind of enforce the code another way, or either to hire more staff, code enforcement, or you can, drive around, talk to another city and town. I'm just going to give you an example in Fall River, because I've been there, talked to them, said, hey, how Fall River is clean, better than Brockton. I did talk to them. They did explain to me how. But if there's any way you can kind of talk to them, kind of to see how they do to maintain, because I do have property in Fall River, just to let you know, they don't play, and then they don't work like we do work here. And it's clean, it's better. If you drive by one day, you just can take a look at it, see what's going on. If you literally can kind of have a conversation with them, or arrange a literally partnership and try to see if we can use the same tools and code or whatever to be the same. This is just my advice. I'm not trying to tell you what to do, but it's driving me crazy because I have tons of calls every day, especially right now in summertime. That's what I have to tell, and I hope we find a way to hire more code enforcement. And then I'm going to keep saying it over and over again and repeat the same thing over and over again.
Thank you.
And thank you so much.
Thank you. Good?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Castro.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr.
Good evening,
Bliss.
Councilor.
Bill Forte, George DePina, and James Doucette have been very good to Ward 4, very fair and even-handed, and worked on many matters, and I appreciate their work.
Thank you.
I'm wondering about, in your budget, on page 398, under stadium purchase of services, your $92,500, and other contract services is $60,000. Can you give me an idea of what that's for?
Yes. The stadium is that white elephant in the room.
Yes.
Right now, we have an agreement with the Knockouts for the facility, and it was negotiated by the law department, and there's a sizable payment they pay every year. However, we have to maintain the building, as just like every other city building. We're charged with maintaining that building. Equipment, the facility. In the past, we've done the lights, we've done the locker rooms over, we've done significant projects this past year with replacing a wall that fell on the back of the stadium, and also some drainage improvements that were direly needed. Actually hadn't worked since they built the place. So that basically wiped out all my contract services this year. I'm down to like $5,000 for the rest of the June. And so these amounts here, they're not a large amount in the scope of what my challenges are at the stadium. But things such as, I get a phone call today, their kegerator is broken. It's a piece of equipment for the stadium, their kegerator. You know how they serve beer? So they said, well, it's a piece of equipment that you own, you have to fix it. So I'll have to inquire about how to fix or purchase a new kegerator. Stand-up freezers, coolers, freezers, these kinds of pieces of equipment that we own as the owners of the stadium, that when they're broken, we have to fix.
So you have to have some money set aside for the when and the if?
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay.
And they're not necessarily things that we plan. I have a contract services budget last year somewhere in the neighborhood of $800,000. I never spend $800,000 my contract services. I'm down to $5,000 and I'm not done at the end of the month.
Because you did spend it.
It's the one and if when it comes to the stadium. And then
Do I understand that we used ARPA funds to replace the scoreboard?
I'm not aware of the ARPA funds. I don't know.
No?
I believe, and I'll go back and check, Council, that the scoreboard was actually paid previous to that
Okay.
with federal funds. And we also had an existing loan debt service for the stadium that hadn't been fully utilized, and a portion of that was used. But I'll go back and check and let you know.
Okay. Okay, and my other question is, where is the budget for the Zoning Board of Appeals?
So the zoning board of appeals is paid for, the members are paid for out of the part-time salaries.
The what?
Part-time salaries. That's how we pay the board members.
Okay.
And as far as advertisement, I worked with the law office, and we determined that we shouldn't be, as the city, paying for these, for advertisement of these cases. We pass that on to and tell the applicants that they have to pay for advertising.
Right.
So, because it was a loss. If we're paying $1,000 for advertising, we're only taking $150 for the permit fee, the application fee, the city was taking a large loss for the zoning board.
Plus, the newspaper really jacked up the cost of the legal notices.
Correct.
Very noticeably. And what about the cost of the secretary who takes the notes?
She would be, it's a she right now, she is paid out of overtime.
Okay. Because there's no mention of ZBA in this.
Correct.
Yeah, planning board has a separate.
I believe, and I would have to defer to the lawyers, but I believe the ordinances specifically state that the zoning board of appeals shall come out of the building department budget, as opposed to these other departments may have separate budgets on those particular things.
I don't recall that, but I'll take a look.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam. Anybody else? I just have a couple on my own here, just to, this Keganator really kind of threw me for a loop, because I can understand the showers and the bathrooms and all that other stuff. Again, a stadium shall have that, but no one shall have the right to drink. So if they break it, shouldn't they be responsible for paying that? I mean, it was working. I mean, that to me it's a little petty in the sense that we're sitting here asking a city to fix a keg dispenser or beer dispenser that they broke. So every time they break it, we got to run and fix it free of charge?
And it's a piece of equipment. It's similar to the fire later, or similar to the cooktop that we own. So they use it and they do the food service and drink service, but we own the equipment and have to fix it.
But Commissioner, you know, for instance, I can understand your staff with the trucks that you use or the equipment that you use. You're supervising that equipment. You're making sure that that equipment is taken care of. These are sometimes equipment that are used by teenagers, in the sense, to do things, you know, that works at these stadiums. And now we're putting ourselves in a position where you're going to dedicate one of your personnel to just to be at the stadium on a regular basis in case the keganator breaks. I mean, that makes absolutely no sense.
And my shop supervisor actually spends a lot of time up there working with them to make sure that everything's, you know, up to snuff.
I don't want to do the David moment here, you know, from the movie Dave, but we are actually cutting departments, we don't have another inspector that we can, you know, send out to inspect the community. but yet we're fixing fryolators, baconators, whatever nators that we can think of, that we have no control over. That makes absolutely no sense.
Point of information?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chair? It would be subject to the terms of the lease and how artfully the lease is drafted.
It might be, Madam Counselor, but the point is that something that we manage on a regular basis, I can understand us taking responsibilities for, but something that's put in the hands of a third party that cares probably not very much for that piece of equipment, I don't think we should, if it's in the lease, I think we ought to look at it and figure out exactly as to whether or not it should be in the lease, or perhaps somebody just missed it, but that makes absolutely no sense, because if I gave you a brand new refrigerator and you abuse the hell out of it and you break it, why do I have to replace it? We don't do that to tenants that we're renting buildings to. If they break it, they're responsible for breaking it. So why are we responsible for making sure that every single tiny piece of equipment is working in that stadium when we do not operate the equipment? I can understand if it was operated by us and it breaks, then it's a different story. I'm just saying that we ought to look into that to say that at least co-ownership of these equipments that you are using for your own benefits, but it should not be the taxpayers of the city that should pay for that stuff. I mean, that makes no sense. You know, it makes absolutely no sense, and we ought to look into that. But another thing that I wanted to kind of look into, and I think I brought this up last year, you know, perceptions are everything. And sometimes people, we have a perception of crime in this city. In some instance, when you come, yeah, we do have crime, but there's a bigger perception of crime. And I think when we look at our neighborhoods that are not as clean as it should be, it's that whole perception thing, the broken window theory. But at the same time, I think I had brought this up to you as far as purchasing. I know funds are tight, but we have grant writers in the city. They can actually grant write for things like this. What about purchasing cars for our inspectors, code enforcement inspectors? Because a lot of times if you're in a neighborhood and you see a car that goes by that says code enforcement on it, I think it sends a message to the community that we're taking enforcement of codes and cleanliness seriously. I think that's something that you should probably perhaps put it on your to-do list for the next coming year, that if we have 8 inspectors, we should have 8 code enforcement cars patrolling the city up and down, in the sense to give that sense of, you know, we're taking this stuff seriously. I think that's, it's not a lot to ask. I think Troy and his cohorts downstairs in terms of grant writing, I'm not saying that we should, you know, fund this through taxpaying, but I think just in revenue that this thing could produce will probably pay for itself. So that's something we ought to look into.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is on the forethought of my head. And this past year, we attempted to purchase, in our fund, in our budget, we had enough for department equipment. And we attempted to purchase 2 or 3 vehicles. We went through numerous state bid list companies. They said, oh, yeah, we'll get it for you. They put it on there. Go a week, a month. Where are you? Well, yeah, Ford's not releasing more vehicles to us. So we attempted quite a number of times. That was one of the first tasks I gave my deputy when he came on, is I said, we have department money, we need to get a few vehicles. We couldn't get them.
Not a single person sees a police car and they don't slow down. And I think a lot of folks in our neighborhoods, if they see a code enforcement car, I think the tendency is to say, let me clean this up before they stop.
I completely
So I think it would
agree.
help us
The
out a great
perception would be immeasurable.
Well, thank you for the work that you do.
Actually, I have one point of information. I just want to add one more thing, which I think is so important about uniform. I think I used to talk to Mr. Mayor before, because that is going to be advertised and scare people a little bit, because a lot of people does not know what the heck code enforcement is mean. I think if they do have, like, you know, uniform, I think it's something else is going to be literally, you know, help a lot.
Well, thank you, Councilor. I actually want to point out that last year, I purchased shirts for my entire staff. Building and plumbing, wiring, all wear blue with the city seal, signature with wire inspector, plumbing inspector below it, building inspector. We also have maroon shirts for the code enforcement and the sanitary inspectors, and they wear that, and it has the same insignia, same shirt. I have long sleeve, short sleeve, collared shirts. We have those. I asked them to wear them. Currently, in the collective bargaining agreement, my building, wiring, and plumbing inspectors are obligated to wear them, but it's not currently in the collective bargaining agreement for the sanitary and code enforcement, and that we're working on getting in the next round of negotiations. But yes, I had this envision. Also my custodial staff and my public property staff also have those shirts, and it's one of those things I envision. If we all look the same, we all look professional, we come together as a group, the perception's a lot better. So we did enact that in this past year.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, you wanted to chime in?
If I could, Mr. President, I've mentioned it before, and you know, I'm hopeful that, thank you, Jim, I'm hopeful that the City Council will support this as well. I think we'd be crazy not to entertain selling the stadium. I do want to give a shout out to the solicitor Megan Bridges and attorney Stacey Verdi, who have been great since the knockouts and the Rocks are up there and we have 80 baseball games, but we're hemorrhaging money. It is a white elephant, and so I'm going to work after the new fiscal year with the law department. We talked about it today in Troy's office with Megan Bridges and also Mike Morris. At least get out there to see if there's any interest. The current owner of the Rocks and the New England Knockouts is not interested in buying the stadium, but I think we need to see if there is some entity, maybe it's a hedge fund, I don't know, maybe it's just some wealthy high net worth person, but it would make sense to at least kick the tires to see if somebody would buy the stadium. So again, I can't do that without the support of the council, but I will be giving you updates on that. I think we need to really strongly consider that. So that's one thing. And then, Mr. President, I'd like to work with you in the federal delegation. I know Elizabeth Warren, Senator Warren, is really big on grants for electrical vehicles, because I support what you're saying. So if we can get some free vehicles or some money from the feds to buy those vehicles, we should do that. So I'll work with you come the first of the year.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, councilors.
Thank you. Anybody else for the commissioner? Commissioner, thank you, and thank your staff for all the work that you guys do for this city.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Department 20, Park and Recreation, Tim Carpenter, Superintendent of Parks.
Mr. Carpenter, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, councilors. Just a brief statement, if I may. I'd like to take this time to thank my staff assigned to the Park Department for their hard work and dedication to the department and to the city. It's a difficult job that they perform to the best of their abilities on a daily basis. As you know, we have several ARPA-funded park projects that should be wrapping up here in the fall. We have our window replacement at DW Field Golf Course Pro Shop, also wrapping up here shortly, which is also ARPA-funded. The restoration of the Cosgrove Pool is moving along swiftly, and we hope to open up at some point next month. So it has been a very busy winter and spring here in the Park Department. DW Field Golf Course continues to perform well for the city, with another successful golf season last year, resulting in over 31,000 rounds and $1.618 million in gross revenue. It was the third consecutive golf season eclipsing the $1.6 million mark. To date, in FY24, the golf course has generated over $1.531 million. In terms of the budget you have here before you this evening, please note the following. While it appears that the overall budget has increased by 0.4%, 0.4%, line items for pool maintenance and pool operations have returned from public properties budget in the current fiscal year to the Park Department budget for FY25. Those line items total $220,000, which is approximately 8% of the total proposed budget for FY25. So as you can see, there have been some significant cuts, as is the case with many departments, to the Park Department budget. Thank you for your time, and I'm now willing to answer any remaining questions.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Councilors, any questions for the soup? Councilor Duranencourt.
Yeah, it's not a question, Mr. Chairman, but it's more a comment. I remember vividly when I was on the council, Mr. Carpenter, back in 2018 and 20, when we made the investment to DW Field Park Golf, and I'll tell you this, man. You know, you and your staff has been doing a wonderful job. You know, the golf course, you know, has changed drastically. You know, when I speak with people who play there and they have nothing, other than positive comments about the golf course that we have in the city. And I remember, to give credit to Mayor Bill Carpenter, his desire to make a lot of investment into this before, like some people didn't even want to go there and play. And if we go there now, it's loaded. You cannot really find a spot to play, man. It's busy. It's like, before it used to be busy on, Saturday and Sunday. Now it's like, it seems like every single day, as long as, it's not raining, this place is loaded. And I think the city, did, making a very positive investment into this. And I think that, in the near future, this place will generate a lot of money, if we continue, investing into it. And I know, we got the geese over there, like, causing a lot of problem, but I know, your team and of course, some of the people that play them. And so, all I can say is that, keep up the good work. It's a wonderful place. It's like, it's a landmark. So many people know Brockton by virtue of that golf course. And if you go up there, and especially, those of us that like to somewhat enjoy it. I don't play golf, but I just go there just to drink water. I like drinking water over there. But I think it's a positive place, and I hope we can do more advertisement in terms of like what we have in the city, and of course, DPW and all of that. And I'm very happy to see, the outcome. I was here in 2018. I was here in 2019. And I witnessed, the desire to give credit to Mayor Sullivan too. He was on the council at that time, and when you came in front of this council and asking, and of course the clerk was here too. It seems like all of us, and there was no, how do I put this? There was no desire not to make the investment, and I don't want to say you beg, but you promised the council that if we do make this investment, there will be a positive outcome. And I think in 2024. We are looking at a positive outcome, and I know it's a lot of work. You don't play with your grass. If there's one thing that I know about, Mr. Carpenter, is that you don't play with the grass. You want the grass to be as clean as can be, as good as can be, and as healthy as can be. I just want to say this to you, man. Keep up the good work. Let's see how this place can bring millions of dollars to the city of Brockton.
I appreciate it, and I will pass those kind words along to my staff that is out there every day doing what they can to make the place a real success here in the city.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Anyone, Councilor Texera and then the cash.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Superintendent Tim Carpenter. I got a question on the overtime. I know it's 17.4 increase on overtime. Is it wise to hire?
So part of that is recently the city has settled contracts, so the employees' rate of pay has gone up. We do have some additional responsibilities that I think we're going to have to take on in terms of some more ambitious cleaning of some areas where traditionally we haven't had to. That's going to be on top of existing responsibilities. So a lot of times those cleanings will have to happen after the normal business hours or on overtime.
On overtime. All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Castro.
Good evening, Mr. Carpenter.
Good evening.
Nice to see you. So my first question is, how is the Cosgrove pool coming?
I think the change in the Cosgrove pool is going to amaze everyone. It is going to be a modern, efficient, beautiful pool. Obviously, the design is somewhat different than what was existing there. What was existing was just about a 50-meter pool.
Sure.
If you scraped off all the paint, then it was probably a 50-meter pool. So now it'll be a zero-entry pool. So you can walk right from the deck into the pool, progressively deeper. It is going to be a beautiful facility. I think one of the more significant upgrades, I know the pool is the main feature, but I think one of the more significant upgrades really is the bathhouse, and that may get lost in sort of the shuffle, but there weren't terrific shower facilities there before. There wasn't hot water. We're going to have hot water. We're going to have indoor showers. We're going to have outdoor showers. We're going to have a real guardhouse. We're going to have landscaping around the pool. We're going to have shade structures.
Lockers?
We will have lockers. I think I think it's a really impressive project, and it has been a huge headache.
I'm sure.
Yes, I'm not going to lie, it has been
Sure.
a trial, but I think the end product is going to be worth every ounce of headache.
Give us a sense of timing.
July 8th,
July 8th?
that is the date we are working with, correct.
And are Senators Markey and Warren being invited to come back to cut the ribbon?
Congressman Lynch has confirmed he will be there, Stephen will be there. We're still waiting to hear back from both U.S. senators.
Great, and they'll wear their,
We'll be
they'll wear
there on
their
the 8th.
suits and they'll hop in?
Well, I don't know about that, but, you know, we'll see.
That's great. That'll be a wonderful accomplishment.
Yes.
And just in time for a hot summer. So that's my first question. And my next question is, you're working at DW Field Park, you're working with the Wildlands Trust?
Correct.
And there will be students working there this summer?
So we will welcome back the Green Team again this summer. So those are local students. Not all of them are necessarily Brockton students. They have a certain amount of slots
Sure.
that they can pay for.
Sure.
So we will be working with the Green Team on some significant projects in the park again this year. Also working with Wildlands Trust to finalize the master plan for the center section of the park. So
Great.
it's a great partnership that's developed over the past 2 years.
Yeah, they're very interested in helping.
Yep.
And good people. Okay, so under personal services on page 357, I noticed that one of your employees, the admin assistant 3, who was a head clerk last year, but had a very large increase in pay, $21,000. Can you just give me a sense of how that all came about?
So that was part of the contractual negotiations between the city and that union, that particular union. And I believe the large sum that you saw on that initial payout was partially some retro payment.
Okay. Because of the bargaining?
Correct.
Okay. And then on page 359, you have an entry under personal services non-overtime, employee license and registration, $1,400, and we didn't have that before. What does that cover?
I'm just trying to play license and registration. So that'll cover, like the guys that have their CDLs, that'll cover reimbursement for when they have to pay for their CDLs, and we reimburse them for that, hoist license, that kind of stuff.
But we didn't do that before.
We did, but I think we took it from a different line item, if I'm not correct.
Okay.
The other, no, that one is for the reimbursement for the 2 gentlemen that have their commercial pesticide license. So that's a
Okay.
recent addition.
All right, that makes sense. Okay, and then a few lines under that, your energy costs, gas, oil, diesel, has really decreased. So who's paying for the gas for the lawnmower?
So you'll notice the purchase of services and goods and supplies, those 2 categories have been reduced substantially. So similarly, in the purchase of goods, you'll see that our gasoline line item has sort of been significantly reduced as well. From my understanding and conversations with the Finance Department and Mr. Clarkson, as long as we can utilize the entire amount in the statutory category, so we might be able to, let's say, go into, as long as we don't go into the negative for the entire statutory category, we can work with the Finance Department to move some money around within that category.
That is correct.
Okay, so you'll have gas for the lawnmowers?
We will, so we may have to, at some point, we'll see how things go, but we may have to, for example, to fill the golf carts at the golf course.
Right.
We may have to fill up our tanks utilizing the DW Field Trust, which would be an appropriate use for that, to allow us to buy fuel for the golf carts there. So that might be another avenue that we have to utilize, given the constraints that sort of we all face.
Okay, and speaking of golf carts, on page 360, under goods and supplies, golf cart supplies and parts. Is that-
Significant increase.
Yes.
Yes. So there are two reasons for that. One, we have an aging fleet of golf carts. Right now, 23 of our golf carts are years 2011 to 2013. So they've already given a substantial amount of their usable life. Contractually, we have to supply 70 carts to the pro shop every single day. Our fleet currently is 76 golf carts. So we do have a little play there for when golf carts go down. This particular line item was increased, and there are two substantial reasons. One, we are looking into the option of selling our fleet and leasing carts. We could do a 3-year lease at a relatively low price point. That particular line item would cover that initial first year of the lease, given the trade-in value of the carts we do own. And should that not be fiscally possible, which are conversations that we'll continue to have through finance, we are going to have to make significant repairs to our aging fleet. So either way, that line item increase was particularly required.
So you have options.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then a few below that, department equipment really declined from almost $12,000 to $1,900. So you're not buying equipment, or what are you doing instead?
We are going to fix what we have and take care of it.
Okay.
We don't have, I mean, that's,
And a few lines under that, under summer park programs, all I see is summer playground improvements. Does that include programs?
so that is the way it's been listed in the budget in previous years as well.
Yes, I saw.
You'll notice that there is a significant decline in that as well.
Yes, yes.
The thought there was we could generate some savings based on the fact that we do have 8 ARPA-funded projects going on right now
Yes.
that are making a lot of the improvements that we would be spending money on equipment for. So again, it's robbing Peter to pay Paul a little bit, but I think in this particular case, it made some sense.
Yes, I noted that there's 8 ARPA projects, but there are many more playgrounds.
Correct.
And this is the end of the ARPA funding.
Yes.
So we'll be punting next year.
Not necessarily. That doesn't mean that we won't apply for grants and whatnot and seek other forms of funding for projects. So I wouldn't say we're punting at all. I'd
Okay.
just say that we've played the 4 downs that we've been given in this particular series.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam. Councilman Minichel.
Good evening. How are you?
Good evening. Fine, thank you.
Speaking of ARPA projects, I would just like to express my gratitude with respect to your willingness to not only assist with the ARPA projects, but recycle. You helped over at the Ash Street, or otherwise known as the Bent Playground, using some of the fencing from the Cosgrove Pool and placing it over between the tennis courts, which are now being used by many people for soccer, and to prevent the ball from going from one end to the other. I called up and said, hey, can we use some of that fencing? And you were like wide open to, recycling it and basically stretching out its life expectancy. Also, with respect to the work that's going to be and is being done and going to be hopefully installed for a fall or start of September ribbon cutting ceremony, the mayor certainly has contributed over there and hopefully we're on course to really make the start of the school year something special for the kids in that neighborhood. And your genuine efforts to help kids in this city, you're going to be assisting, your openness to have a dual usage for that Little League field. You're going to basically, you were willing to help have it have a dual use for soccer, which we know, like our councilors all know, we are a city of immigrants, and where the kids and the people are coming from are different places, but we know they love soccer, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's a great, healthy sport. So, it's going to be nice to basically simultaneously coordinate the ribbon cutting with the playground area, and the dual usage of the ball field, because right now it really isn't used much. So having it dual usage for soccer is going to be very nice, because there's in addition to kids, there's plenty of adults over there that are playing soccer, and they're good people, they're nice people. I've been spending a lot of time over in that area because of the church at the corner. Everyone knows that big A-frame church that was acquired by Pastor Mesidor, a great man and great family man. He invited me over there, and the people that using the church and involved with the Ash Street playground, the Bent playground, they're just wonderful people, spending quality time and doing the right thing. And I just want to say thank you for assisting with that, and I'm looking forward to that September ribbon cutting and all of the in addition to the new items going to be placed in there, the recycled items that you're helping out, and some of the benches that are going to go in and add a little more seating for the families that are sitting around on Saturday mornings, because Saturday morning, that's a very busy park, and it's actually a fun place. The quality of soccer is pretty darn good. There's a lady soccer league there too. It's amazing. The adult, full-grown adult women and their little kids are sitting on the sidelines watching their moms play soccer. It's a fun environment, and I'm glad you're able to help us out, and no hesitation. I guess the point is there's no hesitation in your voice. It's like, yeah, let's get it done. We can do that. It's like, yeah, we can do that. Why not? My guys will do it in the off time, in the off season. It's great. It's been great working with you.
Well, thank you.
Appreciate it. That's it for me.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Isaac.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, Superintendent. So another budget year is over. Years have passed. We still don't have a designated security, a police officer to the park. So, and I know this isn't going to be the year to get one, but I'm just going to plead with you to please, and the mayor to constantly remind Chief Perez to keep patrols in our park, because we we get the complaints, and I'm not going to repeat them here in public, because DW Fields Park is a jewel in our city. We all, it's our pride and joy, and we want to keep it that way. But once again, I'm disappointed that this isn't going to be the year that we're going to be able to fund, designated security for the park. But please, I plead with you just to keep up with our police department and make sure the gates are closed on time and that we get designated patrols. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, ma'am. Court?
Yeah, really quick. Let me just ask you this. It's like, especially DW Field Parks, right? And recently I've seen a lot of events, like family events, positive. So in order for somebody to have an event, do they have to pay a fee?
So we do offer permits for just about every park in the city. There is a $25 application fee.
Okay.
It is only payable by money order. We don't accept cash, checks, personal checks, business checks, credit cards.
Okay.
It's money order only. That application, as well as the rules and regulations, are all available on the Park Department section of the city's website.
Excellent. So just to tap into what Council Isaac just mentioned, right? I feel like DW Field Park has like so much potential in terms of like revenue, and obviously, a lot of our people, and especially like today was like crazy hot, right? It was very hot, but I think if you are at DW Field Park walking in there, I mean, as hot as it is, but I think it's like somewhat cooler. So like the question is, how do we advertise something like this whereby people can actually have, for the past like 13 years that I've been living here, I haven't really seen any incident in terms of like cookout or anything over there. So how do we advertise a place like that by virtue of having more people using it and get some money from it?
So currently, the only area within the park that we offer permits for is at the gazebo, which is located behind 388 Oak Street. So for example, this Saturday, the 22nd, the DW Field Park Association is having a movie night. So they have.
I've been to it. I was there last Saturday. I was there.
A couple of weeks ago, we had a public outreach event called Give a Hoot About the Park. So we do have some significant events over there. We do obviously have some private events. In terms of a larger sum of money and revenue generating, I know prior to my joining the city, there was talk of swan boats and that kind of stuff. I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure that that fits necessarily the intent of the park. And of course, I would have sleepless nights worrying about the liability involved in something like that.
It's like, how do I put this? I understand, the liability, but if we take a look at Boston, right? So whereby, I work in Boston for like 8 years. We don't have the money that they have, but, some of the places that they have, they put them into use. I'm assuming, this is not something that we can wake up one morning and doing it, but I think with, great organization, come up with plans, I think, there is so much more that we can do, especially in terms of like the empty spaces that we have in the city. And I think that, we do have possibility to not just, bringing money, but bringing people whereby, they will be able to buy stuff that we have from our, restaurants and, and other places. And at the end of the day, the city of Brockton, not to teach a history course, we have a unique history in terms of like who we are as a city and some of the stuff that we have. Let's just put things in perspective, especially the fire station. We have one of the, fire station downtown whereby, if I'm not mistaken, it's like one of the few in the nation in terms of like having wire goes underground and stuff like that. So I think, it's a possibility. I know you are somebody who does listen to stuff like that, and I hope you put some consideration. I don't know if it's going to be like the next 4 years, the next 5 years, the next 10 years, but, look into it. To go back to what Councilman Chilo said earlier, as a soccer player myself, I would greatly appreciate if some of these places whereby we play soccer feel somewhat different, because it's a very tough games, and if the ground is not okay, that can cause a lot of problems. So I'm not gonna pick a place, but I know that you are a man of your words, you truly care, and your guys are doing a wonderful job, and it is true, especially now most of us are playing soccer, whether it's the Cape Verdean kids, the Haitian kids, the American kids. And I guess there's somebody next to my house, she takes her boys to Bridgewater to play soccer. I think she also said she took them to him, whereby she's paying $300-400 for them to play. And I think if we have a field, in the city, I'm not requesting it right now. We are in a budget deficit. There's no need for it, Mr. Mayor. But if we can, think about how to improve at least one field, whereby, we can actually, do something that would be good. And I know the council put money, I believe, Mr. Mayor, when you were in the mayor's office, and again, I'm not requesting that money. I know where we at, but I think there was some money put aside for something like this. I wasn't here in the last couple of years. I don't know what happened to it, but hopefully, in the near future, maybe 2 years from now, 4 years from now, 10 years from now, we can have a field whereby, our kids can actually go play soccer. I believe the mayor coaches soccer too, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if you're still doing it. And I think that would be pretty interesting to see Mayor Sullivan on that field coaching some of our kids.
I coach. I'm not a good coach, but I coach. So a couple things, Council. We have concentrated a lot of money, of the ARPA money, on the Hillstrom Field. The Hillstrom Field is pretty much the soccer field other than Policino behind Brockton High. So there's a substantial soccer field being increased on the Hillstrom Field, which is great. Even additional parking and getting in and out of there. When the council president was mayor, there was a bond authorization. It still exists.
Okay.
Our bond rating, again, as explained the other night, did not go up. It wasn't impacted. It didn't go down. It's status quo, which is good for us for borrowing. But we're not in the opportunity to borrow for that money right now, but that bonding authorization will stay in effect.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, like I said, man, I just, given the fact that Council Minichilo made that statement, I felt some kind of way to actually speak about it because I myself is a soccer player, and hopefully we can keep this in here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you.
Councilor Fowler.
All right,
Do you play soccer as well, Council?
I did play soccer when I was much thinner.
Okay.
I could make it up and down the field. First of all, the parks and recreation programs in a community really do speak to the quality of life for residents and visitors, and I do subscribe to that. Page 359, banking services, $48,246. What would the banking services be, and what are we paying for?
So that is for the credit card processing at the golf course.
Okay.
We have, obviously, I would say 90% of the people that play golf pay with a credit
Paid
card.
by credit card?
So that is for processing those credit cards.
All right. Now, tell me a little bit about the relationship between the golf pro we hire, the golf carts. I understand we have a contractual agreement with a golf pro. What is that annual payout to the golf pro, if you know, approximately?
So it actually is based on usage, which I think is the only fair way really to do it. So the operator of the pro shop receives 15% up to $900,000. So that is for greens fee, golf carts, and permits. Between $950,000 and 1.1 million, I think, it goes to 20%, and over 1.1 million, it goes to 25%.
All right, so he rents the golf carts out, is that correct?
So the city owns the golf carts.
Correct.
Correct. And currently it is $22 a seat. So if I'm riding with Troy, playing golf, that golf cart is generating $44.
And the $44 goes where?
Well, let's say that it is early season and we haven't gotten to $950,000 yet, then 15% of that $44 goes to the pro shop, the remaining goes to the city.
Okay. Do you know in the aggregate last year in FY24 what that payout was to the golf pro?
The line item we did not exhaust and have not exhausted it yet, so I don't have the exact figure on me, but the budgeted amount is approximately $332,000. So I think our actual for FY23 is listed here at $304,000.
So the golf pro would receive $304,000, which is based on a percentage of the income. Now, we're paying for advertising, so does the golf pro pay for his own advertising?
So the company that we utilize to run our online T-sheet also provides online advertising. I'll be honest with you, Counselor, the best advertising in golf is word of mouth.
Word of mouth, yeah.
We used to, our original online booker, we actually gave away tee times. That was the system of barter that we used back then, but we were looking to get anybody to the golf course then. Things have really changed at that golf course now. We used to spend approximately $7,500 advertising with 98.5 The Sports Hub. We're to the point in that golf course's evolution that we don't necessarily need to spend that money. We are known, 74% of the people that utilize that golf course are non-residents of the city of Brockton. We are known across the South Shore. As a matter of fact, we got a phone call from a gentleman from Seattle who is a golf professional in Seattle that had called a couple of months ago to see what our aeration schedule was in the fall, because he is bringing people from Seattle to the Boston area to play golf, and he wants to play our golf course.
Oh, there's no question that the TW Field course, and I'm not a golfer, but I know I have friends who play, and they say it's a very cost-effective, exceptional, and not an easy course to play either.
Oh.
When we start talking about compensating someone with $350,000, though, obviously my mind deviates down to, what if we just hired someone as a city employee for $200,000? And the benefit to them would be they'd be in the pension system and they'd get medical and dental, they'd have a year-round salary. Why wouldn't that be more cost-effective?
Because one person can't do it, Counselor.
The golf pro hires people?
Correct. He has a staff. He has a staff of 9 people. He runs the First Tee program for the city, which he offers free to children of Brockton. He runs clinics for special needs with the South Shore ARC and the Brockton area ARC. All of his own doing. He runs a veterans clinic once a month, all on his own doing.
Staffs the food service and?
No, that is a separate contract.
Okay.
But there are ranger requirements, so he has to have a ranger at the golf course from 8 in the morning until dusk, Monday through Friday, and from 7 in the morning till dusk on weekends. So he has a staff of, between the rangers, about 12 employees.
No, you've said enough, because for us to take on that responsibility, if you extrapolate out from whatever salaries you pay and benefits,
we're doing
and
it right.
Tax withholding and everything else, it would not be cost effective for the city to do that. So I thank you for clarifying that. I do not believe Councilor Nicastro asked about the golf cart supplies and parts. I thank you.
If I may, Mr. Chair, just to answer a question the councilor asked, thus far this year, under that other contract services line, which is where the pro is paid out of, we can check to see if there are any other expenses, but this is just a general line item report on spending. As of Monday, $237,095 has been spent, and there's just over $65,000 encumbered. So we're just about at $300,000 so far this year.
All right, one other small item, Mr. Claxon, again, page 359. Consultants were all going into your office to be used as needed, and you do have $17,500 budgeted for consultants for the park.
Because this is an enterprise fund, we left that consultant line in this budget.
Gotcha. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. It's funny when you were bringing that up, to take it back in-house for us to run. Guess what came into mind? Buses. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, you're getting a very twisted sense of humor.
I know, it's getting kind of bad, but, you know.
Department 21, Cemetery. Department 21, Cemetery. Tim Carpenter, Superintendent of Parks.
Uh-oh, this is that other place.
As it is getting late, I will be brief. Thank you, councilors, for affording me this time to publicly thank the staff of the Cemetery Department for the continued hard work and effort over the past year. The team did a terrific job performing over 295 burials so far this fiscal year, all while maintaining the grounds at the various cemeteries in the city. As promised, I am brief, and I am now open to questions.
Somebody wants to talk about the cemetery?
Let's just pass right by this.
Just pass right by the cemetery. I was there this morning, so great job.
You look pretty good for being at the cemetery this morning.
You know what?
Okay, no more jokes.
No more jokes. You know when we were talking about the pool? You said the zero entry. Guess who came into mind? Jack. Thank you, Tim. Thank you for all the work that you do.
Department 23, Planning and Economic Development, Rob May, Director.
Mr. May.
Good evening, councilors.
Good evening.
I also would like to thank my team for a very busy year, and I would like to thank you all for your participation in our planning processes. We have projects going on in every ward of the city. and we continue to increase our activity and our public outreach, and community participation has been up significantly. So thank you all for that.
This is a shocker. No questions? Okay, next item, sir.
Department 24, Conservation Commission, Joyce Voris, chairperson. She was unable to make it, but Kyle Holden, the conservation agent, is here. And this is a part of Mr. May's office.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Kyle Holden, Conservation Agent. As was stated, Joyce Voris was unable to make the hearing tonight, so I'm here in her stead to answer any questions or, listen to any concerns that City Council has about the Conservation Commission. Beyond that, I didn't really prepare a statement, so I guess I'm ready for questions.
Any questions for Kyle? Conservation, conserving, good thing.
Well, maybe I'll just give a quick summary. So the Conservation Commission, sorry, I know we're on the tight time schedule here, 5 minutes. The Conservation Commission is tasked by the state to administer and enforce the Wetlands Protection Act. So myself, along with the commission members, that's what we do. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out at a later time. But that's all I've got for tonight. Thank you.
No, thank you for the work that you guys do.
Yeah. Sure.
Truly appreciated from the
Thank
city
you.
side. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Department 25, Procurement, Michael Morris, Chief Procurement Officer. Oh, there he is. He's behind the pole. I knew he was in the building.
Mr. Morris, welcome.
Good evening, councilors. The Procurement Department enforces a set of laws and regulations that govern the way in which municipalities purchase goods and services. FY24 continued to be an extremely busy year for the department, with us successfully procuring 5 additional ARPA projects. These projects included the RFP for City Hall Annex, improvements to the parks, the City Hall envelope repairs, and window replacement at DW Field Golf Course. We also processed 115 plus contract documents, which was a team effort. So I'd like to thank my 2 full-time staff members, Leo DeRosa and Danette McManus. The FY25 budget that you have in front of you was originally submitted as a level request, but after a couple of rounds of reviews, it was reduced by approximately 9%. One of the largest cuts was the funding of a part-time position in the office, but I'm confident that we will continue to be able to provide level services in FY25. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions for our Chief Procurement Officer? Mr. Morris, have you been working with the schools in terms of helping them out?
Yes, I have. I've been providing some assistance and guidance with the school department.
Well, keep up the good work. They need a lot of help on that side of the street, so keep up the good work. If you don't have any more questions, you are free to go, sir.
Okay, thank you. Have a nice night.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, and the first shall be last. Finance, Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer. No questions?
Mr. Clarkson.
I had the pleasure of spending quite a bit of time with you during the year, so I would like to point out one quick thing from the accomplishments on page 283 to answer a question from Councilor Nicastro. The 2 grant writers that we hired have been very, very active since joining us, and just in the several months that they've been here, they have applied for over $19 million in competitive grant funding. So what I would suggest, and I think it would be great if they could come in maybe quarterly on a resolve. They really have completely realigned the grant process. They convene regular meetings with police and Rob May and others in the city, and have been a great addition to the team. So I would love to tell that good news story. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Councilor Nicastro.
Good evening, Mr. Clarkson. Here we are at the end. Well, we talked about in prior years, free cash to balance. And in my notes from last year's meeting, I noted that it said in FY '22, we had 15 million. In FY '23, we had 19 million. Do you have any idea of what we're going to have this year?
No, but I will tell you, it will be substantially less, because one of the reasons why we generated such significant free cash every year is that we intentionally estimated our revenues, particularly our local receipts, at very conservative levels, and that would generate the significant free cash every year. One of the things we had to do, as you remember back in December, in response to the school deficit, was to increase those local receipt estimates by $10 million. Now, when we have that printout that we do, despite that increase, we will still exceed those estimates. And right now, on local receipts, I think we're running at about, it's over 100% already for this year. But increasing those revenue estimates by $10 million will reduce the free cash.
Okay. All right. And then on page 288, of course, your consultant number is through the roof because you're absorbing all of the consultant expenses for most city departments, not the enterprise funds, correct?
That is correct. And if I might respond to a question that was not asked, the reduction of that $1 million, that electricity power line, that is to purchase those energy credits that we've heard so much about. And that money has traditionally been housed in the finance budget. It didn't go away. That essentially is seed money to purchase the energy credits that then come back to us through a solar agreement that was executed by my predecessor. So that money now is in the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund because most of those credits go back to them anyway. So we were able to just adjust this and reduce the spending in the general fund because spending that money generates more revenue, more credits that then impact the budgets in the enterprises. So we thought that would be a better way to reflect it.
Okay. And up above there, under personal services, the part-time salaries, is Mr. Condon still working for us?
He is not. He has not. I don't think in this fiscal year he has, but we have used that money as other departments have to have some interns in the office.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Nicastro. Councilor Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, Mr. Clarkson. I just want to start off by, first of all, thanking you. I know I've called you several times with questions about the finances in the city because I am new to the council. I want to thank you very much for all the advice and counsel that you provided me. I just have a question on the consultants that you'd be using yourself in your department. Could you give us a little more information on what they would be doing?
Sure. So again, this large increase, what we'll be doing is working to manage all of the consultant dollars for all of the city. But specifically in our department, we have paid for a few different consultants. We have a consultant who assists both my office and Human Resources with insurance items. We just, for instance, went out to bid. Although no, we're not required to, we went out to bid on what's called our reinsurance. We have an insurance policy on our health insurance so that any large claims, a policy kicks in to minimize our exposure. We have a consultant that helps us out with things like that. In the past, we pay a consultant to assist with the preparation of this budget book. I think his contract is $5,000 or $7,000 a year. I don't think he's on board now, but in the early days, when we were working through the stadium and trying to figure out what to do with that, we had a consultant that helped us out with some of the baseball issues. So I'm happy to give you a total list, but really we have a wide variety of consultants that are paid out of my office.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Griffin. Councilman Minichiello and then Powell.
Mr. Clarkson, could you just tell us where you're at with regard to revenue coming in from marijuana?
Sure. So I will tell you that the way the Commonwealth regulates marijuana has changed, and so too has the way we count it. But we projected for this year $1.2 million in marijuana revenue, and thus far we've taken in $1,493,000, so we've exceeded it, our estimate for the year.
Wow. How many facilities does that encompass?
That I do not know, but I can certainly get that for you.
And then does that money, do those monies go into the general fund, or is that free cash, or what exactly, where does that filter to?
So we count that as estimated revenue. So the money is part of our estimated revenue, and so it's part of the whole general fund balancing of the budget. Any amounts that exceed our estimate are then calculated as part of free cash.
Thank you. Appreciate the answers.
You're good?
Yes, thank you.
Council Powell.
Very quickly, thank you for all the work you've done since last September. Beginning July 1st, I hope we will have actually ordinances passed. We'll have a new framework in place for oversight of financial issues involving the school department. I think that's necessary. I want to mention something that happened that really disturbed me. Councilor Nicastro asked for some public information from the school department relative to finances, and when the person sent the information back, they copied the vice chair of the school committee. I think we have a right to ask for public information, and we have a right to obtain information, and I don't think that needs to be communicated, nor is it any business of the school committee. Just like they have a right to contact the city solicitor or the mayor or the auditor for information, and it's none of my business. They're independently elected. So I think I copied you on my email about that message, about that issue, and I would not expect to see that happen again. The other thing is, in closing, because you've done so much work, any dilatory tactics, any obfuscation, any lack of cooperation that you still get based on a $230+ million budget, I hope you'll tell us, because that can't happen. There has to be that seamless connection between all city departments, and it really isn't, as the chairman said the other day, it isn't the city and the school department, it's all city departments under one umbrella.
I certainly will, thank you.
And your staff, and I'm sorry that Mr. Lacasse is leaving, but I wish him well. Your staff, in the last 11 months, as I said to you, you've learned more than you could in your graduate program. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
If I may, just very, very briefly, Councilor just reminded me of something I neglected to do in the interest of time. I have two staff members who are here tonight and who were here at the previous hearing, but more importantly, they're here in the trenches every single day, and particularly in the last 11 months have worked far beyond the scope of their duties and far beyond the hours for which we pay them. So I do want to recognize our budget director, Evan Lacasse, and financial analyst, Elvira Lopes, both of whom sent you an email earlier today. Evan is leaving, and he has accepted a position as the deputy CFO in the town of Franklin. So we'll honor him at the end of next week, and I hope you come by my office for a cup of coffee and a donut and say hello. Elvira has agreed to step in that interim role. So again, they're both phenomenal members of the team, without whom we wouldn't have this award-winning document.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. I think one of the things that we probably need to start doing as we go forward is start charging some of these other municipalities a fee for taking our staff. We get them from the street, we train them, they become great employees, and then they just come by and they just kind of snap them out. I think we got to, I think in soccer in Europe,
Transfer fee.
there's a transfer fee,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Absolutely.
I think that's what we need to do, and we can balance our books that way. Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to, again, kind of piggyback on what the CFO said. I want to thank Evan and Elvira. Andrew is also in the office. As you recall, when I became mayor, I said that I wanted the books to come to the city council early, right? 7 days, 12 days, 14 days, 1 year. And this year it was a little unknown, right? It was a little unknown because we were still working with Department of Revenue, we were still working with Lieutenant Governor and A&F and EOE. But I wanted to make sure you got them, and I had told both of these great professionals I wanted 8 to 10 days, at least 8 to 10 days. Evan was on many of the calls with the president and I, with A&F. They asked him questions, and like a true professional, he answered them. But again, I want to thank them because you did get the books early on the city side, definitely, and it wouldn't have happened without these people working long hours and weekends. So I just wanted to thank them as well, and I want to thank the CFO. None of us signed up for a lot of the stuff we've been dealing with. And, when we're elected, we deal with the good times and bad times. But to do Zooms on Saturdays and Sundays with Troy and Megan Bridges and TJ Plant, we didn't think that we would be doing that, but we did. And it goes back to when we came here in December, and all of you as well that were serving at that time. I want to thank you all. I want to thank you for the 3 nights of your leadership, Mr. President. And again, I will be here Monday and appreciate everything that the City Council does to better Brockton. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Well, I too just want to take a couple minutes just to thank the mayor for being here all these 3 nights, some more interesting than others, Mr. Clark and his staff. You've already mentioned that. Mr. Medeiros for being here, because he's been here for 3 nights now, listening to some good stuff and some bad stuff. Eric, thank you very much for being here and helping us out as well, and Leandra behind the screen, and of course all of you guys. I mean, we had a few interesting days. Tuesday was a little more interesting than other days, but we were able to get it done in the sense. So this concludes our portion of the budget hearings. Now, I think I spoke with Mr. Clark, and it probably makes more sense for us to we all have these cut sheets. If you don't have it, please see the clerk before you leave. Go home, spend the next few days kind of thinking about what we need to do as far as, the cuts, no cuts, whatever we need to do as a unit, and then come back on Monday for our regular council meeting. And before we go into the council business, we'll spend some time to...
It's at the end of the agenda.
Well, as I said, we're going to go to the end of the agenda. At the end of the agenda, we'll approve the budget for the city. And I think, if I can say one more thing, I think the community, from the conversations that I've had with some folks in the community, are pretty proud of this council, for the work that you did and the fact that you took the time to really dig into both this book and the schools, more particularly into the schools because it's never happened here before, so we did this for the first time. The community appreciates it. You might have 1 or 2 naysayers out there, but the vast majority of the residents of our community really appreciate the fact that we dug into this and really showed the citizens in the world that we're not just a rubber stamping group, that we're actually take our business seriously. Councilor, did you want to say something?
I just have a point of parliamentary inquiry because we didn't do this 1 year. Do we need a motion to refer this?
Yes, we are going to need, before we, yes.
Okay, fine.
Before we leave tonight, we will.
I didn't want to miss that step and have to start over.
Yeah, I just wanted to take a moment or so just to, thank the folks for doing this and putting up with the dry jokes or whatever else we try to do to keep the night a little on the lighted side. With that being said, I would entertain a motion that we recommend
favorably
to the council.
To the council.
So moved.
Second.
A motion has been properly made and properly seconded to refer this item to the council on Monday. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? It carries.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Councilors, do we have any moments of recognition, privileged information, anything we want to bring up? That being said, it's cut. This meeting is adjourned.